Hailing frequencies are open. Welcome everybody to Clear Skies, our Star Trek RPG remote edition. And we're back after a week-long hiatus of rest, R&R, and general grumbling about the fact that there is a global pandemic, which I feel like we're still on topic with that, right? Like, does everybody else feel pretty good about grumbling about that? I feel pretty good about grumbling about that.
Yeah.
We good? We all agree?
Still very topical.
Yeah, it sucks. Yeah, I think we all, are we in concordance on that? I think it sucks. Like, it just sucks. Generally speaking, that's my biting social commentary for the times. We are back. As you can see, we are down Gina tonight. Gina's doing some theater, which is what Gina is born to do. So we're really excited for her. She's got a stage reading going on at 8 p.m. That is cool. I don't actually have the information where you can find her stream, but it is posted on her Twitter account. So if you want to go check it out, that's something to look at. Let's see, the other announcement that I had tonight, it is the birthday of one Jackson Lansing, who is never going to see this, but
hey.
I still love you to death. He's a busy man. How many 30 comic books he's writing now? He's writing a musical. He just got done juggling knives on TikTok. And
went to space last week.
Right, yeah.
Went to Mars, came back.
Yeah. Got inoculated from radiation poisoning, then mutated into a whole new version of Jackson, and now he's having a birthday. So technically, he was actually born yesterday, and just declared. I don't know where we're going with this.
It's so anyway, impressive because he's most of the way to an EGOT now. Like,
yeah, it's weird.
Really a super dude.
If y'all are all confused,
happy birthday to him.
Yeah. So before we jump into tonight's game and pick up where we left off, this is going to be our final chapter of this episode of Clear Skies. I'm really excited to get this party started. Do you guys have any announcements before we jump into tonight's game?
Yeah,
couple. Go ahead.
I will yield to the bard first.
Oh, just my regular stuff. I'm streaming Mondays and Tuesdays. So tomorrow I'm going to be continuing my playthrough of Secret of Monkey Island on twitch.tv/Xander. 2 hours and 1 F. That's all.
Yeah. All right. Cool. What you got, Aki?
All right. I actually have two things that. Well, this is the announcement to say that I have an announcement that I will be probably allowed to make within the next week or so. But I'm not allowed to say what those things are yet. But also, last week I took a break from streaming due to the strike that was happening. But I will be back in action this Friday for Aki Takis and Tea, where I drink tea with you and we talk about stuff. And that's it. The other announcement I have is that I love all of you very much.
They're lying. They told me they hated everyone.
I got one.
I have. Oh, what's up, Bunny?
Tune in to what's the name? Days don't have a meaning. Tune in Wednesday on here, QueueTimes, 5 to 7, to see me as a vampire on Denver by Night, a vampire masquerade with amazing female cast. And also keep an eye on my socials. I have a big 9-video edited down to 7 5-song mashup I'm about to post. I didn't post it today in honor of Star Wars. I wanted all of us Star Wars fans to have our day. I didn't want to.
Did you just say Star Wars?
Oh,
Bonnie?
shit, are we in the wrong? Oh no, what am I doing?
Did you just say Star Wars on this stream?
Are we not playing Star Wars?
Oh no. Why not? Can I just be the little girl in the GIF that goes, why not both?
Why not both? I'll tell you
Anyway.
why. Star Wars sucks, that's why. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm about to
I
post a
thought
lot
you
of
were
these.
going to cut that line, Eric.
Right, that's right. I'm sorry. I had a discussion with the mods. I wasn't supposed to actually say that, especially because I'm already outed. Everyone knows I fucking love Star Wars. I love Star Wars. So may the 4th be with everyone.
Also with you.
I think without any more shenanigans, because we're kind of like working out it's good to see you all, and it's good to kind of like goof around before game. So like, I'm just happy we're back and we're doing the thing. We're gonna go ahead, and if there's no other further announcements, although I do wait, no, I do see the gears turning. That's not gonna, no, okay, cool. All right, so without any further announcements.
All right, producers, if we could please cut his mic off because I have to make an announcement. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you, production. So in fact, I do have stuff. I do have my regular broadcasting schedule because some folks might not know that I am streaming more than here on Tuesdays. You can find me on LFM_network for Veiled Alliance, the Dark Sun 5e game that I'm playing that I can most closely liken to the only HBO drama RPG I have ever played. It is full of intrigue and politics and some very, very naughty men who certainly will see justice and never see it coming. So you can actually catch up on that whole show on LFN Network's YouTube. So please go check that out. And we are live at 5 every week on Tuesdays, PDT. So please go check that out. Also, feel free to check out the No Man's Sky, because I am no man, Friday Fly Day hangout that I do with Jason Mills, It's Probably Okay, on Twitch and Twitter, where we explore the skies and this is very important, scan every baby. We find all of the adorable procedurally generated fauna and we find them and give them names and love them. But today, isn't that, no, you're still cut off, darling. Today isn't about that. It's about trekking in the stars. I'm excited.
I'm going to name the next sci-fi show we do, Scan Everything. All right.
Don't tempt me with a good time.
Scan everything. All right. Without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump into tonight's episode of Clear Skies. Welcome back, everybody. We are going to jump into tonight's episode, the final chapter of Food for the Gods. Where we last left off, the USS Ross was hovering over the planet Jadaran, the homeworld of the Jashashian people, a brand new species that has just been contacted by Starfleet. Or rather, I should say, it's more accurate to pinpoint that Starfleet rather bumped into the Jashashian people. After rescuing scientists from a deep space station, while you were all on mission to study the creation and the evolution of a particle fountain, which is a strange deep space anomaly that Starfleet has yet to truly understand its nature. Being given authorization, the USS Ross has been sent to Jadaran, the first Federation vessel to ever enter orbit into the system, to make first contact with this brand new species. And what you've discovered is they are a post-warp society, very early in their advancement in technology, capable of Warp 1 at the current moment. So again, very new. And in keeping with Star Trek lore at this particular period in history, the Federation has advanced this agenda of incorporating new races into the Federation as quickly as possible. After the devastation of the Dominion War, membership into the Federation is a little easier than it used to be, and it's not unheard of for a species the Federation has only just met to make such quick first contact and to start actually opening up diplomatic dialogues for possible future relations. None of that changes the fact that first contact missions, even ones that started out as good as this one, aren't in fact one of the most dangerous missions a starship can go on. It's one of the most dangerous missions a starship and her crew can engage in. However, you were all delighted to find that the Jashashian people are not only affable, they're thrilled to meet new species that they seem to have always suspected were out there, but have never had encounters with before. However, you are, of course, running into that cultural phenomenon that exists when a culture that has never encountered deep space species or any other kind of out-of-their-world species, there are mixed reactions in the leadership. A defense minister, which leads us straight to where we last left off. Of course, we know that there is a crystalline entity that is about to emerge from this planet. This planet roughly the size of Earth's neighbor Saturn, a huge planet. So that the emergence of this life form will be devastating to one part of the planet, actually really won't be felt that much besides tremors on the other. But that's not really what's at stake here. The emergence of this crystalline entity puts the entire Jashashian people in danger, as it is going to require sustenance the moment it emerges from its cocoon, as it were. The moment it pulls itself free from its crystalline prison underneath the crust of this planet and enters deep space for the very first time, or I should say orbit for the first time, it is going to require the feeding of all biological life that it can get its hands on. That is what the crystalline entity is known for, literally exterminating, destroying, utterly destroying all organic life that it touches with its beams that it uses to ingest and basically just wipe out anything that lives. To make matters even more complicated, the Tholians are here. On the opposite side of the galaxy, they have traveled to the Shackleton Expanse, and they seem to have been waiting. Not only waiting, but they were facilitating the creation of birth, rather, of this creature. This entity seems to have been stuck underneath the crust. A problem in its emergence, you're not entirely sure. Lots of theories flying around right now, but it seems like this creature has been, for lack of a better way of describing it, gestating underneath the surface of the planet, growing until it was ready to emerge. The Tholians seem to not only be aware of it, they seem to know that it was here, and they were getting ready to throw a comet at the planet in order to help it come out. Now, thanks to some pretty swift diplomacy, our resident diplomat, OLYN MADZHIN-NIL, managed to strike a dialogue with the Tholian commander. Not an easy thing to do. The Federation has not had a lot of contact with the Tholians, and it's been years since a Tholian captain or a Tholian commander of a starship and a captain of a Federation starship or anybody of authority on a Federation starship have even exchanged words. The exchange actually went quite well, considering the disadvantage you were at. The Tholians seem to be pretty bent out of the shape and rather protective of the crystalline entity. And they seem to be aware that one Starship Enterprise D to be exact, destroyed the only known crystalline entity roughly 13 years ago. And the Tholians opened dialogue with you all, essentially accusing you all of being murderers. OLYN MADZHIN-NIL was able to talk them down from that. They were ready to open up. They are currently, the starship that you are encountered right now that has been looming distantly in a high orbit, just out of range of weapon systems, is a Tholian dreadnought. If you're familiar with Star Trek Online, this would be called the Tholian Tarantula, is the name the Federation have given this particular ship. It is a scale 7 ship. It's roughly the same immensity as a Romulan warbird. Its statistics are quite unknown. The Federation has never encountered one of these vessels up close in this particular era in Star Trek. Up until now, no one has ever actually seen this classification vessel. Starfleet Intelligence has reports and a silhouette of the vessel. They know its chassis, but they don't know what this vessel is truly capable of. Thankfully, you were able to talk them down. Things seem to have been going well until you had the encounter with our defense minister. There's always someone. Defense Minister Kaya Nobal, who is a zealot and very protective of her people. She is in clear opposition to the High Regent or ruler, or essentially the elected ruler of Jadaran and the Jashashian people. His name is Olazaz Keel. And for a reminder, your contact, the lead of the scientist team whom you all rescued, Dr. Yugos, who has been a proponent for you, has been deeply grateful to all of you, and who has been constantly trying to be a force of reason in the midst of rising paranoia, especially when the Atholians emerged and it came out that this crystalline entity was going to emerge from this planet and possibly become a danger. Now, to conclude this wrap up, because it's been over a week, so we got a lot to go over. But to conclude the wrap up, on top of everything that's happening right now, the USS Ross has been trying to find a suitable planet to direct this crystalline entity off and away from the planet of Jadaran and give it somewhere else to nourish itself, so it doesn't, annihilate a people. You had a lot of strong, positive leads thanks to LAKAT, thanks to the engineering and science department, and a lot of fast, quick thinking, launching probes in every direction, searching for a needle in the biggest haystack ever known. You actually managed to find a couple of candidates that have a strong possibility of being somewhere this creature can go for sustenance. Confirmation is tricky. These probes do fly at warp, but the information they're sending back, you're not getting deep space, you're not getting fully, I would say they're not as thorough of a scan as a starship would be if it was in the same system as the probe, or if it was the starship itself. So this information that's coming back to you, you've managed to pinpoint a couple of possible locations. But the clock is ticking. This thing is about to emerge, and to make matters worse, Captain Azari was able to discover that the defense minister was not playing by the rules. She was not playing nice, and she had her own agenda. As it turns out, despite the fact that they are technologically inferior, the Jashashian people apparently have subspace weaponry. Isolytic warheads were banned. The other races of the quadrant, the great powers of the quadrant, are very familiar with this type of subspace weaponry. It has been banned because they are destructive as hell. They damage the space around where they explode, but they're also incredibly volatile and unpredictable. Much like biogenic weapons, these weapons have been banned. Now, of course, you're in the Shackleton Expanse, and this is first contact. It's remarkable that this species has the technology to manipulate subspace, but it's also kind of in character with what you have learned about them. They apparently have some version of technology that allows them to not only sense and detect what happens in subspace, but apparently now they know how to harness the destructive power of tearing holes into subspace. Where we last left off, you had uncovered that these weapons were being armed, and these isolytic warheads were getting ready to launch. You don't know what their intended targets are, but you do know the defense minister ordered the launch and has every intention of protecting her homeworld. And that is where we are picking up tonight's game. At Yellow Alert, with the sensors of the USS Ross, thanks to quick acting by Captain Azari and by some quick scans, thanks to LAKAT and Lieutenant Commander Prahl, you have all detected these warheads, these subspace weapons, are actually outfitted in some defense satellites that are over the planet. They have been armed and they're preparing to launch. Before we begin tonight's anything else that happens, there's one piece of information that LAKAT is going to have to uncover here, so I need you to make a sensors check, LAKAT.
Great, I can do that. Can you also tell me how many warheads we have seen so far?
Yeah, that's what this roll is.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah. That's what this roll is.
And I have
Take a momentum.
Yeah,
So next
absolutely. Can I science reason, right?
Yeah, reason science, and then yes, and you know what to roll, Xander?
Yep.
Computer sensors.
You took an extra die for
I
cautious,
did.
right? Okay, you can reroll then,
Can I reroll it?
Crit.
right? You can reroll, right? Reroll one.
Yeah, I'm gonna reroll one right now, please. Thank
Okay.
you. Okay. That was a 20 that I just rerolled, folks.
Ooh.
Anyway, so that would be 4 successes.
Ross had 2 because they crit.
Okay. So the difficulty of this is scaled. And this is not a typical rule in Star Trek adventures. Usually what happens is that you would use obtain information. But the way I'm going to do this now, because as a GM, just to be fair, I forgot to give you the difficulty before I called for the roll. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'll set the difficulty at 1.
Great.
And we'll scale this so that with the difficulty of 1, now I'll give you some basic information. I'll give you all the momentum for getting that huge success right now, which should fill you guys out, correct? You all should have 6 momentum now. So what you can do now is if you want to do obtain information spends after I give you this initial information. The first piece of information is this. The sensors are giving you mixed readings. What you're detecting is an interference coming through the sensor array. And judging from the sound that you hear Lieutenant Commander Prawl make at the tactical station on the other end of the bridge, he's seeing what you're seeing. The sensors are detecting the warheads, but they cannot pinpoint how many there are.
Okay, so my obtain information is definitely what's causing the interference.
Okay, with obtain information, LAKAT, moving your fingers across the cool blue lit panels of the L cars, you begin to see that the information that's coming back to you is that the sensors are detecting an interference on behalf of the fact that these warheads using these subspace warheads apparently are fluctuating in such a way that it's causing a feedback in the sensor array. So you're actually getting echoes. And the sensor array is detecting that these echoes are false positives, and it's having difficulty pinpointing which ones are the positives. So in other words, it's actually difficult to pinpoint these warheads at all. All you can get from the sensors is that they are preparing to launch.
Great. I just had 1 obtain information? Or
no, you can keep spending until you're out of momentum. But did you have Studious? Because there's that trait. No, you don't have that one.
No, I do not. That was my last character.
That's okay. But you guys just juiced up on momentum. So if you want to do any more obtain information checks, I believe it's 2 for the second one, and it doubles up.
You know what? I'm gonna say I'm good for right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yes, some kind of interference.
So with that information, I do want to relay it to both, well, obviously to my captain, but then also to Tech as well as Prawl. LAKAT to Tech.
Actually, Tech, are you on the bridge or are you doing engineering?
I'll be on the bridge for this one. I'll just turn around. Go for Tech. I'm sorry. I'm right here.
Move action if you want to ever change space.
So go for Tech. Oh, Tech, you're right there.
Sorry.
All right. So it looks like there's been some interference, and the reason for this interference is it's causing these echoes, and these echoes are causing false positives, which is making it very difficult for me to understand what's happening here. And I need to know if this means anything to you as well.
Yeah, it is a subspace weapon, so it's a little bit, these are illegal. It not only will disrupt the regular space around it, it could disrupt subspace permanently, which makes a whole mess of problems. But with the sensors that we have focused now, maybe we could look at the construction of one of these missiles and focus on an aspect of it to scan for instead of the whole thing. If every missile has a certain computer part, we could scan for the metal that's in that instead and maybe narrow it down.
I like that idea.
Also, an option 2 is you can spend a point of power from the USS Ross to juice up a sensor scan. That's always a possibility.
Right. So, Tech, I think that we can definitely scan for that, but then also we don't quite know where these are aiming, and I'm wondering if tactically it makes more sense to figure that out first.
That might be a question for Prawl.
Yeah.
What are you asking Prawl?
Basically to Prawl, I want to figure out like where exactly are these aiming or are these aimed at? Because I think you, Eric, said at the top we don't know what she intends to use these for. So I'm hoping before we're like, oh my god, they're aiming at us and like causing a whole diplomatic issue there, I would like to figure out if these are actually being aimed at us.
So Prawl, Prawl is actually looking at the same data as you.
Great.
And when you swivel back and ask him, hey, where are these pointed? You see the Trill, he looks really frustrated. Looking at his panel, he glances up at you and LAKAT and shakes his head, and he's like, I can't get a solid reading. It's also worth noting, LAKAT, that if you hadn't scanned these, there's a good chance we wouldn't even have known that we were in there.
Well, that's reassuring. Especially since we did not expect this kind of technology from them, but it does kind of make sense. Anyway.
EXEO pipes up at that point.
Yes.
Commander turns and looks at you, Tech, and says, Chief, is it possible that if we didn't have this information before because our captain gave it to us, are the Tholians going to know that these are available? Do we know that the Tholians are aware of these weapons?
Well, here's the thing. I think it comes down to whether or not these people knew what was inside of their planet or not. If this is defensive, they knew somebody was going to be coming for their planet, they could have prepared for anything and set it to sort of camouflage against sensors. And if that's the case, the Tholians might not be able to sense it either. But we don't know how the Tholians are even here or why they know it's there, so they could sense anything as far as I know.
Whoa, Tech.
Ha!
It's gonna be all right. You're good at this.
And just as you say that, you hear Prawl say, Commander, the weapons are being fired.
Great.
And at that point, EXEO turns and her face goes dead serious and she just says, red alert.
I'll put full power to shields.
Back down on the planet, being that you are still tied into the frequency right now, Captain, you're hearing what's going on. You hear Commander EXEO call for red alert. And then you hear her voice say, Captain, the weapons are being fired. We're having difficulty figuring out what their targets are.
Don't care what their targets are. We're taking over their guidance system. That's the way. I don't think we have a reasonable chance of remote disarmament, but they have to be keying off of either internal guidance, which is most likely given that you're getting sensor interference. That means they're probably picking a target ahead of time. And if we can alter what that location is, that's great. Otherwise, they're keying off of some of the local defense satellites, in which case they should just go to a different place. Ideally, the sun or whatever Prawl deems safe. I don't know that there's any method of remotely disarming this. Prawl, is there?
Captain, if those weapons are fired, the warheads are hot. The only thing we can do at that point is try to intercept them and destroy them before they impact on the Ross or wherever else are going to hit.
If I may, we may have an opportunity to do something like that with the probes that we have set up. If we can set off a pulse that's large enough, that may be able to disrupt their trajectory or maybe even disable them altogether. We've got a lot of probes out there, Captain.
It's possible that we can disable the probes, Captain, but it's very much more likely that we can intercept using a full spread of photon torpedoes. I will say, though, that would probably cause the warheads to detonate.
It's your call.
Yes, and the Tholians will in all likelihood see that as provocative.
It's possible. It's possible, Captain, yes.
Attempt guidance interference with the missiles.
Commander
Tell them that wherever they are aimed, they actually want to go into the sun.
Okay. EXEO turns to you, Tech, and gives you a nod, and then she turns back to you, LAKAT, and says, Lieutenant, assist the chief, please. Stop those warheads from hitting anything.
Gladly.
And then she turns to Prawl and just says, Commander, what is the status of the Tholian vessel? And at about that point, Prawl says, the Tholians are coming about. I think they're aware that something's going on. Likely they've detected that we've armed our weapon systems. And EXEO just says, there's nothing we can do about that right now. The first priority is getting rid of those warheads. Then we can explain ourselves to the Tholians. What are the two of you doing back down on planet side?
Well, this conversation, if I recall, having washed my hands, because I do recall specifying that I've left the bathroom and washed my hands, I am going back to the ambassador because Lord knows whether or not they're going to attempt to make a move on them and the other alien that happens to be here, of course, but I'm most concerned about our civilian, and they will be in need of protection. I want to get their back as soon as possible.
Okay. As you leave the bathroom and you're headed back that way, the guards that followed you to the bathroom, when you exit the doors, they say, "Excuse me, Captain." One of them behind their mask, you hear this sort of slightly modulated voice. They raise their weapons. And one of them says, "Captain, if you will come with me, please."
I don't take kindly to having weapons pointed at me.
Will you come with us, or will you resist?
That's really not a good idea. Please, stand down.
Are you doing what I think you're doing?
Well, there's a whole chain of things that I am doing. But sure, let's start with that one.
All right. Then this is a command presence check, as you know.
Yes.
The difficulty of this is at, let's see, they're hostile.
Mm-hmm.
They're threatening. No, I'll put the difficulty at 2.
Okay. I'll take an extra die for cautious.
Actually, let me adjust this.
Mm-hmm.
I tell you what, I've already thrown you the difficulty rating. So what I'll do instead to make this a little more on par with the situation is I'm going to spend 2 threats to increase the complication range by 2.
Jesus mine.
I'm guessing you rolled really close.
Oh, I haven't rolled yet.
Oh, okay.
I say Jesus mine because my complication range is already increased by 2.
Right, yeah. So what does that make your total complication range at?
It means that I can succeed with complication, which is fun.
Yes. And that's where it gets fun. What's your complication range at with my 2 added on?
That should bring me down to 16.
16. So you're maxed out on complication. Okay. Go ahead and make your difficulty tool roll. 16 or higher is a complication.
Mm-hmm. I've taken the extra die for cautious, kiddos.
As we wait with bated breath. When you smile like that, it could mean either way. It could mean something terrible happened or something really good happened.
Well, so first off, 4 successes.
4 successes.
But second off, yes, there is a complication. But you know the very best part. You know my very favoriteest part.
You're going to spend momentum to get
rid of it? It was on this one. The green one.
The green one. Okay.
So it's my pheromone die.
Okay.
The complication.
All right.
But I do succeed the roll.
We're maxed out on momentum, just to keep you all updated.
Yes, and I think we're floating 1 bonus, which I may need in a hot moment.
So, these Jashashians have never encountered an Orion before. They would have no way of knowing that evolution has equipped the Orion species with a very unique ability. Giving a demand that you gave just now to an armed guard who sees you as an alien, a non-person, who's hungry for you to disobey, normally this would probably get you shot. But there's an odd hesitation, and he stares at you. And his companion behind him is surprised to find that he doesn't really feel like being hostile either. Both of them, their body language reads as uncertain. You can sense it from them because the barrel of these guns are not pointed directly at you anymore. Instead, you can see them dip, almost as if he's just transmitting the fact that he's confused. And his shoulders slump for a second. You swear if that mask wasn't on, he would be staring at you with a tilted head, kind of like, why? Okay. The gun lowers a little bit. And it's quiet. They don't seem to respond to you. But the threatening posture seems to have come to an end. What do you do?
Good. I'm going to rendezvous with the civilian with me, and we can figure out how to get out of your hair presently. Report to whomever you need to report to. Don't worry, I understand.
He steps closer to you and says, will I ever see you again?
I guess we'll just have to find out. Turn on heel. Move. He can watch me go if he feels like it.
He follows a couple of steps, not as in like he's planning on following you, but that sort of, you've seen this before. It's that please don't go kind of like, there they go, kind of just like a couple of steps behind you and watches, turning and looking at his companion who's staring at him. Neither one of them have any idea what the hell just happened to them, but none of them feel the impulse to try to stop you. But they also don't seem very happy that you're leaving. They look a little agitated. You continue walking forward. As you're approaching the situation room, as it were, the command center where you were coming out of, the two guards that are waiting for you are my new complication that I'm enacting, because they see you on the spot and say, raising their weapons immediately, they say, "Where's your escort?"
I think it was the defense minister, wasn't it? Didn't they work for? They had some sort of communications, then they had to run. Do you know anything about what's going on?
He raises his wrist and says, "Green team, come in." What's your location? Why are you not here? Report to us at once. I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you to stay here.
I'm afraid you'll understand why I cannot be separated from the civilian inside there.
You have no authority here, alien.
And you have no authority over my ambassador.
Are you going to try to make another roll? Because they don't seem... Okay.
They're my crew is in there?
Yeah.
I don't know if you noticed, but my crew is in there.
Yeah.
So, no. Yeah. I'll take another die for cautious.
All right. Being this is a complication that I'm activating, I'm going to raise the difficulty on this one to 4.
All right.
So... But this is a good way to succeed your way out of a complication. So, go ahead and make your check. It's a command presence check.
All right, I'm actually going to take. I think that's a little bit too much danger with the number of dice that I have in the complication range that I roll with. I suppose 4 will just have to be enough.
Playing with fire, Azari. What'd you get?
6.
6 successes.
And no complications, and no need for rerolls. Just, I have a natural crit here as well.
It's a combination of the fact that you are a goddamn captain of Starfleet. You're someone who's seen some shit. You're someone who's done some shit. You are a over 6 foot tall Orion that has learned to harness the gifts of their race responsibly to do what needs to be done and accomplish the mission. You know how to sort of focus what it is that you can do. And as you assert yourself very casually using this pheromone ability of yours, this aura about you, the presence that's emanating off of you, the authority in which you speak just seems magnified. And they find themselves to be very accommodating. The gun lowers, and he says, "We shouldn't keep you. You should go in." Is that okay?
I appreciate your understanding in this time.
Thank you. The other one says, "I told him he shouldn't have done that." And the other one looks at his...
No need. Misunderstandings happen. All is forgiven.
The door opens as you just step inside. And they both watch you as the door closes.
Hate to see me go.
OLYN, when when your captain enters the room, there's two things you immediately see what's happened. Knowing your captain the way you do, after months of space flight and some personal conversations, particularly recently, there's two things that you immediately pick up on as somebody who is specialized in reading body language. First of all, something is very fucking wrong. You can tell by the way the captain strides into the room and by the look on their face. And two, you have enough sense to know, just from the way people start turning and looking when they're walking in the door, that the captain is turning to their abilities. It's sort of a sixth sense that you have. And knowing what you know about the captain, that's warning sign number 2 that something is wrong. They look at you and stride straight towards you. You guys are not alone in the room, and the High Regent is still here and looks oblivious, not paying attention to any of you. There are security in this room, and they are all staring at you. None of them are making a move. But I'll give you this. Go ahead, both of you, if you could please roll me an insight check. This will be a reason insight with the difficulty of 2.
Reason, insight. Those are both attributes. Is this
I'm
insight
sorry.
command?
I'm sorry?
Insight command?
It would be, I'm sorry, yes, that would be insight command.
Thank you. I'll take one precautious for lol.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. I have a natural crit and a success, so that's 3 for me.
Okay, you guys are juicing up on momentum.
5 from me.
Okay.
Because I have focus for this.
It helps
so.
for the fact that you're empathic. That definitely is, that's definitely helping you here. You can get the emotional state of everyone in the room. The captain walking in and their emotional state as they approach you, OLYN, tells you, on top of everything else, that you are not surrounded by friends right now. The captain is stiffened. Their shoulders are slightly tense, but their arms are loose, like they're ready to throw punches if they need to. That alone, and then the ambient tension you're feeling from the guards in the room, you're suddenly feeling like you're surrounded by enemies. High Regent is completely unaware of what's happening. To your perceptions of this captain, walking in the room, that moment where OLYN meets your eyes, the ambassador, you see a slight twitch in the eyebrow, and it's just enough that you get that the ambassador knows something is wrong. You don't have to say anything. That's enough for you to glance to see what sort of the situation is in the room. And using your intelligence training, Captain, you kind of do that thing where you size things up without being too obvious that you're looking at reflections in glass, just kind of glancing down to brush off your uniform, but you're actually keeping somebody in your peripheral. Little tricks that you learned in your years in the Starfleet intelligence. This room is ready to pop. The guards in this room are all ready to move. And it looks like, judging from what you can see in your periphery, some of them have their fingers on the trigger of their weapons, even though think of it like this. It's the elevator scene in Winter Soldier. Some shit is about to go down.
Oh, never to fear. I can do this all day. Having said that, I am moving toward the ambassador and will, if I can, just take them by the elbow toward something that will function as cover.
Okay.
Which, might be a table that needs to be knocked over if and when it pops off, but, doing such things in a friendly manner, smiling to the ambassador as if to sort of get a kind of energy, just bringing all of the people together whom I don't want shot by phasers.
Kumbaya. Okay, so...
And just as a point of clarification, I believe that Dr. McCrell beamed off of the planet onto the ship to work on
Yeah,
McCrell's in sick bay right now.
I've been working on surgery for the baby.
McCrell's in sick bay and is currently hooked into this like virtual doctor's unit that's going to allow her to turn the entire saucer section of the USS Ross into a giant scalpel to cut open the surface of the planet. After a lot of effort to refine the phaser array, which, by the way, is a quick reminder, the Ross, her guns are not ready for a fight. She is currently calibrated to cut open the surface of that planet.
I know.
Just as a quick reminder.
That's why we have
Which
more
is
than
why
one
your
button.
suggestion is a good one, Tech. All right. You reach the ambassador. You're standing side by side.
Was the bathroom pleasant? You didn't fall in or anything.
Oh, you know me. Terribly clumsy. No, it's... I think we're in for just a blast of a time. Things are really coming to a head. And one can expect this whole thing to launch any moment now. I'm so happy that
It's almost
we've
like
managed
the
to make
universe-
this first contact work.
It's almost like the universe is listening to you, Captain, because as you're finishing this sentence, you glance down enough to see that some of the writing tools that these Jashashian use for a lot of their computers, sort of like writing tablets and stuff like that, they're rattling, vibrating on top of their surfaces. And at that moment, you see the computers overhead, this big overhead display scene that's giving you like a tactical readout of the planet, the position of the Tholian dreadnoughts, the satellite positions, the USS Ross in high orbit. You see measurements coming in that seismic waves are being detected all across the planet. On the USS Ross, as red alert is being called for, LAKAT, as you move from your station to the back of the bridge in order to help Tech start putting together a plan to interfere with these warheads as they're being launched, you hear this alarm chirping through the tactical station, and Prawl goes, "Oh boy, here it comes."
Here
What?
what comes? Here comes the baby, or here comes the warheads? There's two things coming at us right now.
That's correct. And then he gets on,
That
he
doesn't
gets
answer
on
my
the comms.
question.
He gets on the comms, says, "This is Prawl to Dr. McCrell.
Yes.
Doctor, this is it."
All right, yes. Prawl, very quickly, do you remember in the station when you were injured and I left you?
Is this the time, Doctor?
Very quickly, say yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. It's because I knew you'd be okay, and that I recognize a warrior when I see it. What we are about to do is like a fight, but a fight for life, all right? And there's not one other warrior that I would want by my side than you. So let's go make a baby. Okay.
He glances at everybody for a second when you phrase it like that, and just says, "Great, Doctor, thank you." Phasers and arms.
All right.
At the front of the bridge, doing an exquisite job of making sure nobody can see, Vren is going. Yeah, so Tholians are still in position, Commander. And EXEO moves over and puts her hand on his chair and just says, "Keep watching them, Vren. If they get anywhere near weapons range, if they start moving towards us, if their weapons go online, I want to know. We're about to be very vulnerable. Tech, I need you to feed whatever power is required into whatever it is you guys are going to do, because we're going to have to fire the phaser array right now."
Commander, I don't know about that because I had a change of heart. I think, maybe, and I'm sorry I didn't talk to you about this, LAKAT, but I think maybe we need to eject one of the warp cores.
Excuse me?
We need to create some bait for these warheads to go towards. If they're targeting our warp systems, we need to eject one. We can use the probes to create a warp bubble. That'll keep the isolytic warheads inside once the warp core detonates.
I'm so into this. Where do you need
No!
If we detonate a second, Prawl says we can't detonate a secondary warp core in high orbit of a planet.
We're gonna have to get out of orbit and then eject it. Listen, this is the only thing I can think of to stop these isolytic warheads. If we just draw them into some sun, it's gonna destroy it and create this large problem. Listen, this is gonna kill me just as much as everything else, but I think this is the only way to save it.
EXEO turns to you and says, "It's a good idea, Chief, but we're out of time. We're going to take the course of action you initially recommended."
I don't know if the probes are gonna be strong enough.
All we can do is hope at this point. Captain's given us an order. I believe in you.
Okay.
man.
And then she turns back to the screen and just mumbles, "Of course, a good idea, though." Okay, so here's what's going to happen. I need an order of events. The warheads are currently firing from the satellites. Currently, you know that they're being launched, but there's no way of knowing exactly what their intended target is. It is not unusual to presume that it's probably the Ross, or that it might be the entity itself, or it might be just everyone up there. Hard to say, but there are multiple warheads and you cannot get an exact counting. So you can figure out if an area of effect that you're about to create can confuse and disarm or disrupt these warheads, which is possible considering they are older technology. Entirely possible. And you're going to have to do this while diverting power to the phaser array to cut a mountain range from orbit. All while these Tholians are bearing down on you because your weapon systems have been brought online. Now, the weapon system of the phaser wasn't enough to provoke them, but with red alert, it means the torpedoes are also armed. Which EXEO is ready to commit to because it's the backup plan, and if everything fails, EXEO is going to launch a full spread of photon torpedoes to try to wipe out the warheads in orbit. The alternative is this fails and they hit their intended targets. So, a lot is riding on the next couple of rolls. But I'm not going to resort to extended tasks. We're going to do dramatic rolls right now. So instead of going into an extended task action, the first thing we're going to do is I want to know how Chief Tech and Lieutenant LAKAT managed to disrupt these warheads using some of that rad technobabble you were throwing out just a second ago, Tech.
Yeah.
Are you using like the main deflector to emit some kind of pulse to try to disrupt the warhead? Okay, that's actually going to give you a pretty big area of effect. The USS Ross, I don't know if you've seen her. She's a sexy ship. She's got a big deflector dish. So if you want to go ahead and make that attempt, I'm going to set the difficulty for this at 5, and I'm going to burn 3 threat to raise the complication range.
Can I assist, and then can I use my focus and sensors?
Yes, I will allow
I think you should lead, and I will assist.
Are you sure?
Because this is more...
Right, because this is more sensors. That makes sense. Okay, I will lead.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay.
Okay, let's figure out where we're going to interfere. What am I rolling? Reason science, or am I rolling something else, my friend?
Actually, that's a good question. This actually might be this. I don't know if this would be a reason science check. To be honest with you, give me one second.
Which is why I was like, maybe that should be tech. But
If it's control engineering, then I'll go, I guess.
We can revise it. If it's something else, we can revise it. Just give me 1 second. I'm going to take a good look at this and see what I want to land on here. But honestly,
Because it's like making the theory or putting it into practice, but we're kind of doing both at the same time.
We'll just hold hands while doing it.
Yeah.
Okay. Reason science.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
You said it. You said it.
Reason science. Now the Ross is actually going to use sensors and engineering.
Okay.
And you and tech.
Mm-hmm.
What am I going to ask you to roll for? Tech, I think you're going to have to roll control. And no, I think you're going to roll. I think I'm going to ask you to roll daring engineering.
Daring engineering. Okay. I do have a quick question. I have a focus in warp field dynamics. Most of that is for ship travel, but would that affect subspace and warp and fields? I don't know. It's one technobabble for another.
The truth is it is a stretch, but it's such an imaginative stretch.
That's my brand, baby.
What are your other focuses?
Transporters and replicators, dilithium studies, which I'm sure will come in handy, piloting xenoculinary arts and survival.
What would you do if I said xenoculinary arts?
I would have a field day.
You would celebrate.
Yeah.
Warp field dynamics.
I have a degree.
No, I just don't think that would be the same as subspace. Yeah.
Just trying to help out my daring engineering.
Actually, here's the thing, though. Here's the reason why I'm getting hung up on this is because the truth of the matter is detonating the warp core is a tactic that they use to seal subspace breaches when these weapons detonated. So they were good to like heal the wound, which means that there is a relationship between these subspace rifts and warp cores, specifically like the power that's generated by a warp core. So I tell you what. Yes, I'll give it to you. I'll be nice. I'm going to give it to you.
Especially since I can't eject a warp core.
Yeah, because you had a secondary idea, and you're like, fine, I'll do this. You're going to go with your first one. So, yeah, I'll go ahead and give it to you.
All right.
All right. So who wants to roll for the Ross?
I already did.
Okay. So we'll do this. You give me your roll, Tech, then I'll get LAKAT's roll, and then we'll get the Ross's roll.
I got a success.
One success. Okay, you got done. So then we need 4 more. What'd you get, LAKAT?
Okay, and we landed on what? I'm sorry, you cut out for me.
Oh, reason science. I'm going to go ahead and give you
reason science. Wonderful. Okay, well then, in that case, that's 3 successes.
3?
Yeah, because I'm using my focus and sensors, right?
Yes.
Okay, great. Then 3 successes.
3, so we have a 4 total of successes. Did the Ross roll a success?
The lovely thing about rolling for a ship is that whenever they roll the same number as the department, it is automatically considered as rolling into a focus. So my sweet, beautiful, sexy ship has not 1 but 2 successes because she rolled 3, which is the exact number of our engineering. 6 successes.
Nice. 6 total successes.
My crew.
We are maxed out of momentum.
Now, this is going to be successful. However, I'm going to ask the Ross to spend 3 power.
That's what we're here for.
You are channeling it. You are channeling sort of like a subspace pulse through the deflector dish, and it's enough to pretty much disrupt. What it's doing is it's causing a sensor feed disruption to everything in an area in front of the Ross, including the satellites, which are now being scrambled. This lower field technology actually is not designed to compensate for this level of interference.
Maybe to add to the flavor of it, and with the number of successes, some of the stuff we rerouted through some of the computations Dr. Yada did in Cetacean Ops, because we were having them figure out the fluid dynamics of subspace.
Yeah, that's a good flavor for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So before I give a narrative result, I need we have to roll for our doctor, who just as the Ross is emanating this pulse, the main phaser array has fired. So this is going to be interesting. Ross is juggling a lot of plates right now. So the primary sensor array fires on Prall's command. The moment the array activates and the beam makes contact with the surface of the planet, controls are immediately handed over to you, Dr. McCrell. You have the virtual display up in front of you. You are plugged in on your claws. The sensors are all around you. So you're actually able, it's like a virtual C-section.
Yes.
Meanwhile, Prall is at the tactical station, constantly compensating the position of the USS Ross and the phaser array and realigning as you guys go. He's your assistant. He is your nurse right now in this incision.
My fellow warrior, he is.
So,
in the fight for life.
Doctor?
Yes.
I'm going to need you to make your control medicine check.
Yes.
And that's going to be assisted by Prall.
Yes.
And his control security check.
And what is the difficulty?
Well, let's see. You've got good scans. You've been doing a lot of research. You've been doing a lot of prep work. And you've been training for this for the past hour and a half or so.
Yes.
You've been realigning the sensor array, and you've been preparing for this exact moment, even though it's coming up on you pretty fast. However, there is the fact that you guys are technically in combat right now.
Yes, complications. Yes.
There's a Tholian dreadnought bearing down on you, adding to the pressure. And this is the first time this has ever been done. So, I'm going to set the difficulty at 3.
Yes.
Which seems simple enough. But then I'm going to pop off a bunch of threat.
Great. And I would like to use my quick study when attempting a task that will involve an unfamiliar medical practice or treat an unfamiliar species, which I'm assuming both. Ignore any difficulty increase. Does that help?
Okay, well, I can't increase the difficulty on you then. I can definitely increase the threat range, but that is a freaking awesome ability.
Yes, it is.
You are literally the best person for this job. You are literally the best person for what you are doing right now.
Logan knew what he was doing.
Yes.
Don't worry, Tuck.
Okay, so the complication range is set to 18 or higher, and there's a complication. So let's go ahead and make the roll. I'm going to roll for Brawl.
Is Ross rolling weapons security?
I'm taking
for
a
the phaser?
moment.
I'm gonna answer that in 1 sec. So Prawl's rolling that.
And I'm assuming xenobiology or emergency medicine would go into effect here for my focus.
I would say emergency medicine is a little more applicable here.
This is an
We're
emergency.
under red alert. Do you see my light? All right.
What was that, Sam?
I was saying that it is in fact an emergency, but I was asking for the Ross's role. I was assuming weapons security from the phasers. But I mean, this is some weird phaser medicine, so.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna say.
Please let this be the world's only weapons medicine role, and do it solely because that's a hilarious macro.
You're making a compelling argument.
I would love to go down in history with that as well.
A weapons medicine
We're not
role.
going down. We're staying in geostationary orbit.
So the reason, let me explain. You're using weapons, and you're using the medical department's facilities in order to enact this. So it is a weapons medicine check.
All right, we win the RPG.
The medicine department is what is being used here. So it is literally, it is your chief medical officer making this roll from sickbay, utilizing the weapons array. So,
Yes.
Sorry.
So go ahead and tell me what you get.
I've got
Bonnie will
4.
Four.
4.
Okay, so 4 successes. What did you get?
One
Ross?
was a crit.
Okay, so 4. What did the Ross get?
So here's the thing. When you roll for a ship, anything its department number or lower counts as rolling into a focus. So for instance, if you roll a 3, which is the department's medicine number, then you, I don't swap the die out because it's rolling good, but it is suspicious. It is a suspicious die.
And what did
nonetheless,
Paul get?
2 successes from Ross. Only because of weapon.
Prawl rolled a 6, so he missed his focus by 1 point, but you get another success from Prawl.
So we just had a baby.
From the sky, a red beam appears out of this orangish sort of yellowed sky that almost looks like the color of dull copper. This red beam, the impact of the beam on the surface of this planet is subtle at first until it finally caves in and sinks beneath the rock, which immediately becomes superheated. Anybody who would be within the area would start watching this mountain range begin to crumble. This incredible mountain range, which is definitely on par with some of the greatest mountain ranges any that I've seen on Earth, certainly. Not to mention that these mountain ranges are made of pure crystal. So the refracting light from this phaser striking the surface of this planet would be a hell of a sight to see if anybody could actually be down there to see it. The entire mountain range superheats, almost like the phaser is actually conducting the heat throughout this style. There's some kind of chemical reaction in the crystal mineral itself, and it causes the valley to start to glow as these mountains begin to emanate these swirl like molten orange-red light. And eventually there's this thunderous, ear-shattering roar as the planet begins to split. As it begins to split open, this phaser begins to draw a line. From space, you can see with the naked eye on a view screen this miniature, minuscule explosion taking place down on the surface of the planet. Not like an explosion like in a Hollywood film or something. Rather, it's like molten rock bursting out of the surface of the planet. From this vantage point, you can't even actually see that the phaser is moving naturally, but at the point of impact, the phaser is moving 500 feet a second as it traces a line straight down the surface of this planet, bursting and destroying mountain ranges left and right. Ranges that have not been touched by organic life in thousands of years begin to crumble and collapse. As this is happening, the ground begins to just split. And there is this burst of iridescent white light that contrasts violently with this dark molten red. Just bursts up from the surface of the planet, striking the clouds. Now, it almost looks like there's a lighting effect taking place, or like a great lightning storm has erupted in the atmosphere of the planet. And looking down from the Ross, it's an incredible sight. This phaser beam begins to disappear into this cloud, this plume of debris that is being exploded out as volcanoes are becoming active again. These mountain ranges being destroyed, and the emergence of a young crystalline entity bursting through the surface of this planet. This jagged shard of crystal, this living thing that's roughly the size of a small starship, emerging from the surface of this planet and bursting with magma, just exploding everywhere as it drills up from the depths of the world. Finally, until it escapes the crust. On the view screen, everyone on the bridge is breathless, watching this take place. Even the Tholians have halted their advance on the Ross, and it almost seems like everyone is watching in wonder, shock, awe, a mixture of horror. Down on the observation deck, the Aux crew begin to gather and move up against the glass as a silence falls over the crew of the USS Ross. People are moving towards the windows to look out from the viewports. 10 forward is hushed as everyone is looking out. Some of the officers that were just nearby are making their way into the room to see what they're seeing. The first time anybody has ever seen the emergence of a young crystalline entity, one of the most mysterious and deadly life forms the Federation has ever encountered. And the Ross is here, not only seeing it, but facilitating it happen. And then the sky becomes riddled with the explosions of subspace weapons. However, the initial flash of these weapons detonating causes a spike of anxiety and shock because the proximity, it's obvious they were close. These weapons were very difficult to track. But as this distortion of wave effects emits from the deflector dish of the USS Ross, you can see also, for those who were making it a point to even look, the satellites are immediately going offline, and you see these boom, boom, boom. As the weapons detonate, none of them rip into subspace. It's almost as if these weapons, as they're going off, their warheads detonate before they arm. Like a torpedo slamming into a sub and it hasn't armed yet. Yes, I've seen Hunt for October 1,000 times. These weapons detonate, puffs of explosion, these little pops in space. You see now, you're getting an idea of their intended targets. And you were right. They were headed for the USS Ross. 12 warheads total. 6 were headed for the Ross and 6 were headed for the Tholian Dreadnought. Unfortunately, as all of this is happening all at once, the explosions that happen out in space seem to startle the Dreadnought because its posture changes dramatically. And it goes from being in an observation sort of position to moving slowly at 1/4 impulse towards the USS Ross. And it's at that moment where you hear Prawl say, "The Dreadnought's weapons are coming online. If I stop the beam now, the creature's not going to clear the threshold."
We can't raise shields and still have the beam going.
EXEO turns and says, "Prawl, don't you dare stop cutting that planet open. You tell McCrell that she keeps going. If the Tholians want to take a swipe at us, they can. The shields will hold." Prawl says, you see Prawl's jaw clenching. He says, "Aye, Commander." Back down on the planet. Back down on the planet, as all of this is happening overhead, the rumbling in the room seems to have triggered a nervous response because one side of the room decides it's time to act. And these guards, who were on a hair trigger suddenly raise their weapons and start shouting in Jashashian language. Your universal translator is picking up most of it, but they're basically demanding that everyone stop what they're doing and get on the ground now. What makes it difficult to understand is the other side of the room pulls their weapons on the other guards. And immediately, the two of you, Ambassador, Captain, find yourselves in the dead center of a political coup. A standoff. Weapons are drawn and everyone is shouting at each other. The scientists that are in the room that have been monitoring this situation, that were watching in awe as this begins to happen, are shattered from their perception of what was happening on screen and are now in full panic mode. Most people scream and throw themselves to the floor. You see papers and dated pads flying up in the air, chairs being hurtled backwards as people hit the deck. What are the two of you doing? Shots have not been fired.
Everyone, please, for the love of all that is good, will you please stop? What is happening here?
Okay, OLYN. To try to call an end or to calm the situation, this is going to be one of your most important roles yet. Because you're going to have to bring to bear everything you've got. Right now, you're literally in between a standoff of assault weapons between government forces that are in conflict with each other. Mm-hmm. So you throw your hands up, you say your words, make your roll. What would you like to do?
All right. I am going to start with. Well, I need to know what the difficulty is.
Yeah, I'll give you the difficulty. What are you doing specifically? Are you going to be?
All right. I think that OLYN puts their hands up, and like from where they are, and like they're basically looking at both sides, and they're making eye contact with the High Regent. And what they want to do is they're trying to assess who the leader of each side is, trying to see if there's somebody who's obviously taken charge here.
Okay. Okay, so you're doing this and you're calling out to everyone to calm down?
I'm mostly using the words as a way to diffuse the tension for the people who are scared.
Okay.
But the eyes are like who's in charge here? Who's really in charge?
I'm going to give you an assist.
Okay.
Because as you're doing this, instinctively, the High Regent is also calling for calm and demanding to know what's going on. So like chiming in and jumping in with you and like calling for everyone to calm the hell down, the High Regent joins you for the assist. So I'm going to have you make a presence command roll. Mm-hmm. The difficulty of this is 5.
Sure. I can use, I have several talents that could come into this. So you tell me which one is the most, I can either use diffuse the tension, which is
diffuse the tension is perfect. I would immediately say that's the one to use.
Cool. I'm going to use diffuse the tension then. Yeah. Let me read up to remember exactly what that does.
Okay.
May I offer a green die assist in this?
Yes, because as the captain, absolutely. They're a member of your crew. You can totally use your ability here to assist.
And I believe we have 6 momentum too to play with as well.
Mm-hmm, we do.
And I've been burning through my threat to try to nail y'all with complications, so you've got a good shot at this.
Sorry, I'm having a little bit of difficulty finding my diffuse the tension talent.
No sweat.
Yay! Don't you love it when you do a thing and you actually forget where it is?
Story of my life.
I'll give an extra die to roll.
Hold on. Yes, I get an extra die. And then I would also like. Should I do it now?
And the momentum.
I could spend a momentum for an extra die, I guess.
Certainly.
But...
You can actually do 2. We could just roll 3 momentum into this.
Sure, why not?
Great.
So I'll go ahead and
All right.
And this is a presence command?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm rolling 5 die, right? Jeez.
Yeah.
Oh.
5 dice is my favorite purpose.
Yeah, 7 successes.
Oh my god.
With a natural crit and then 1 in my focus because I'm
What's
using...
the assist? What did you get an assist on that, Captain?
Yes, I did.
So it's 8 successes,
Mm-hmm.
and you got
before the High
one.
Regent.
And you got one from the High Regent.
Because I'm fairly certain that one of my focuses, diplomacy or negotiations, either one of those works in this case. So yes, I rolled into a focus.
Is 9 our record? Have we ever had more than 9?
We have not in this game yet had
Yeah.
more than 9. Our all-time any game STA record, I believe, is 10, but
That was
And
on the ride.
I think it was a Lark Sage roll too. I think it was something about an asteroid
No,
field
just
or
saying, it
something.
may have been
Just
Lark
saying. He's
Okay.
gonna say it.
Shouting, and then a measured voice that finds just the right moment to interject between shouts. Raising your hand, you call for calm, Ambassador. And Captain, you're getting a sense now. The Ambassador has displayed moments of self-doubt, like everybody. But the Ambassador has always been very gifted at using their presence as a Deltan to their advantage. Composing themselves, appearing calm, looking people in the eye, nothing threatening. But also now the power of their voice as they confidently stand in between a room filled with deadly weapons pointed at them. The Ambassador raises their hands and calls for calm. And for a split second, Captain, you're pretty sure this ambassador could probably convince a Ferengi to donate to charity. Everyone in the room immediately starts looking at each other, and the High Regent throws his hands up and goes, Stop, this is insane, what is happening? We're making a bad impression here. And kind of laughs. The tension doesn't get diffused by that, though. Everyone's eyes are on you, Ambassador. When the door to the room opens behind all of you, and 3 more guards enter with the defense minister. She steps forward.
What are the numbers now? Just because I know Saul is counting. How
The
many
numbers-
guards that are...
There's 8 guards that are the 8 guards that are apparently loyal to the High Regent, and there are now a total of 14 that are loyal to, or at least have acted on behalf of what appears to be the defense minister's wishes.
And they're on the exit door side of this room.
There's 2 on the exit door side of this room, but it's literally like a face-off between right and left right now. However, no one seems certain at the moment. Everyone has taken the same action of like hesitating. And the High Regent steps in the room and says, "What is this? Do it! I gave you an order."
Minister Nobal.
She's waiting. She looks over at you.
I'm not entirely certain what I should say to you. You are honestly going to murder your High Regent and his guests in cold blood on what is most likely the most important day of your planet's history. That's really what you want to do today. I did not take you for a fool, Defense Minister Nobal. I really didn't. If you want to hash this out, then I believe that is every bit your right for the position that you hold. And I have a deep respect for your love and passion for your people. And I understand that you're afraid. I am afraid. There is something happening right now that is about to change everything. And I'm very scared. I'm not afraid to admit that to you. Bloodshed on this day is already a risk. But we have done everything in our power to help you and your people.
You brought this to our people. You are the ones that brought violence here. You brought these creatures that are seeking our destruction. You even created this thing on the other side of the planet that wants to destroy us all. And all the while, your ship hovers in orbit, waiting to just reap the benefits of our destruction. Don't think I don't see what's happening here. And the High Regent steps forward and looks at you, Ambassador, and says, "That's not true. I've seen the data myself. Please. This isn't the way to do this." She looks at him and just says, "You are leading us into destruction, and you're so excited by the appearance of your bizarre-looking aliens that you are going to feed our people to them for your own ambitions. I won't let it happen. I will do what's necessary. I will protect us." And at that point, in the back of the room, you hear, "Minister," swiveling in a chair, and somebody says, "The warheads, they've all been disarmed." At that point, the High Regent turns and says, "You fired warheads? You launched our orbital weapons against them?" She stiffens and says, "I will do what is required to protect us from your stupidity." This jovial Jashashian, you see a sad look come over his face and says, "Arrest her." And he glances left and right and says, "Arrest her and all is forgiven. She authorized an orbital strike without the signature of the High Regent. She has broken the law. This is a coup. You will arrest her or you will all be found guilty of treason. Decide right now, please." It's a whisper of the same kind of presence that your ambassador exudes, Captain. It's a confidence, but there's an uncertainty. And the room seems to feel that uncertainty. You've got one more chance here. The odds from your tremendous success, you've managed to stop the tension in the room. If you've got to say one thing, what do you say now?
All that we want, all that we have ever wanted, is to meet new people and learn about them, and if possible, protect them. That is all we have ever desired. Your regent welcomed us with open arms and has treated us kindly, and we have no desire but to do the same in return. If the Tholians, or the crystalline entity, or your foolish defense minister try to stand in our way, we have his back, and you've seen our ship.
There's a few moments of tense silence. And Captain, you can start feeling the cards at the table have changed. There has been a shift suddenly. The defense minister apparently is aware of it too, because she starts darting eyes, looks left and right, and she says, "Shoot him. Shoot all of them." Nobody does anything. In fact, her call for violence seems to deflate her followers a little bit. And after a tense moment of the defense minister staring at her, as a low roar begins to continue to fill the facility from the birth that's happening on the other side of the planet, one of the guards steps forward and unclasps what looks like cuffs and says, "Minister, if you'll come with me, please." She looks at the High Regent and just says, "This is the final day of the Jashashian people."
I'm afraid you're going to find that it is the first. Goodbye, Minister.
She stares daggers at you, but is quickly just shoved away and clapped in irons right there on the spot. She glances back at you, you getting the final word as she's led out of the room. And at about that point, all of you hear EXEO's excited voice go, Captain?
Report?
We have a baby.
Congratulations, Captain. It's a beautiful baby crystal.
What more could I have hoped for? Mazel to you all.
Unfortunately, none of y'all have any kind of visual anything, as the satellites above Jadaran have been completely disabled. You have no triangulation, you have no sight on the Ross, you have no nothing. It's completely dark. The intelligence network has dropped. EXEO says the Tholians are moving into position, but they aren't taking any action against us. However, the baby, we're gonna need to get it to follow us now.
Yes.
It's very hungry.
Captain, you might need to come back on board.
I look to the High Regent and I look to the Ambassador. I think we might be just about done for the moment. High Regent, we'll leave you to your follow-up.
High Regent says, I don't know what to say. You've saved our planet and we tried to kill you. I'm embarrassed, but I'm hoping that when you do whatever it is you're about to do, you'll contact me again.
Oh, we will be back. We're not finished. I have so much more to learn about you.
And us about you. Go do what you do. And he gently pats you on like the side of the shoulder as he's like, you've learned our customs. And he puts his fingers between yours and just shakes your hands real quick and says, go speedily and go well.
Live long and prosper, High Regent.
I like that.
Commander, 2 to beam up.
EXEO Chief saying, 2 to beam up, get them out of there. They watch and marvel as you are particleized right in front of them. This blue glow envelops the both of you. You reappear on the very nice temperature-controlled USS Ross. Moving off of the glossy transporter pad, stepping down, you see Chief Sang nod to you with a grin and says, nothing been happening up here, Captain, he says with a sarcastic smile.
Oh, you layabouts, all of you. Should put you to work now and then. Come along, Ambassador. Up to the bridge with us. We have actual work to do.
Yes,
the doors open and you hear EXEO say, Captain on the bridge. You step down from the turbo lift. On the view screen, you see an incredible sight. You see a young crystalline entity floating into the atmosphere, breaking the atmosphere, trailing clouds behind it, and molten rock falling and cooling in mid-flight as it emerges from the planet. The Tholians keep their station distance, but as this entity begins to emerge, you can see this swirling light fluctuation. It doesn't look anything like the crystalline entity that the Enterprise or that the Federation has encountered in the past. That one was this great crystal spire with a lattice work of multi-tiered like branches coming off, resembling giant deadly snowflakes, all surrounding this crystal spire. This one looks like a crude chunk of crystal rock that is a spire in the process of forming. It has that same crystalline look, that same iridescent glow, but it's mottled and fluctuating. And if you didn't know any better, just from observing it, Ambassador, you would think that it's stomach growling. This is a hungry baby. It begins to sort of find its way towards one of the closest power sources, but it's kind of hovering, confused, kind of just drifting along in space right now.
I walk up to EXEO. I lean over before she gets up, and I say, that chair looks really rather good on you, Commander. But if I could borrow it for time.
She grins, and says, "The bridge is yours, Captain." When suddenly, as all of you are looking at the view screen and you're having this moment, you hear, "Dr. Yada to the bridge."
Who said that?
"Dr. Yada to the bridge. Is anyone there?"
Yes, this is the captain.
Yes.
Go.
"Captain, I'm giving you coordinates. You must follow them.
Copy that.
The entity
Transmit
will
those
follow."
coordinates to the Tholians as well.
Vryn looks back and says, "Aye, Captain." And then puts in the coordinates and says, "Course laid in, Captain. I should tell you that these coordinates take us into uncharted space. I have no charts for this."
Oh dear. We might have to do a little bit of exploration on the way. Fortunately, I have just the pilot.
"Standing by, Captain."
All right. Engage.
"What warp would you like to set, Captain?"
I would like to go 30 to 40% below maximum observed warp of crystalline entities in times past.
Okay.
Because this is a baby.
Yes.
This is
Okay.
a little baby, and you don't
So,
expect a newborn colt to gallop.
About warp 2, then. The Ross begins to pull away, and the baby reacts. The Tholians seem to start moving into position as well. They're kind of proceeding at 1/4 impulse again as they're moving closer. And setting the course, you see Vryn just say, "Course laid in, warp set, ETA 45 minutes to destination." Ready when you are, Captain.
Take us to warp, Mr. Van.
And making the calculations, the Ross pulls out from orbit, and moments later, following on pure instinct, the baby entity miraculously, still, by the way, a total mystery to Starfleet, accelerates into warp and follows after the USS Ross. A beat later, a Tholian dreadnought, plotting the same course and in pursuit, enters warp. The three of you leaving the system at warp 2 towards an unknown destination. That Dr. Yada has mysteriously thrown these coordinates at you and urged you to take his word on it. That is where we're going to pause for our break tonight. So we're going to be back in 10 minutes, y'all. Stay tuned. We'll see you in just a moment. Welcome back to Clear Skies, everybody. We are currently proceeding at warp 2 towards a mysterious location that Dr. Yada has fed to the helm and the captain is ordered to go to. In pursuit is a brand new crystalline entity that has just emerged from the surface of a planet in an unprecedented moment of scientific discovery.
My baby.
And the Rosses actually managed to save the Jashashian civilization from being annihilated by this baby and the Tholian dreadnought that was protecting it. The Tholians, in that case, actually are also in pursuit and currently following the USS Ross to this undisclosed location. We're going to go ahead and start with the Ross coming out of warp. Before we emerge from warp at the location, did anyone want to have a scene? Because there is a 45-minute gap, and we can have a quick scene if anybody wants to do anything. But right now, it's literally a chance to take a deep breath after everything that's just happened in the past 2 hours. This first contact mission, like they mostly do, has not gone according as planned. But the crew, everyone is astounded. Those who can look out the aft windows can actually see in pursuit with the naked eye a crystalline entity. And it's like pupil, it's like its most newly born form flying after the Ross.
I know that personally, I've set the engineering teams at least to try to gather as much information as possible. I know that we're getting a lot of scans on the science department, but we're looking from the engineering department on specifically this form of propulsion, how it's achieving warp 2, how it survives in subspace, those types of things.
A lot of the readings that are coming back from your engineering department is total bafflement. Mostly it's the science department that's getting readings. Actually, LAKAT, while you guys have some downtime, you're contacted by Lieutenant Morel, who is one of your astrophysicists who specializes in spatial anomalies and quantum physics, and he contacts you from main deflector array, and just says, Lieutenant LAKAT, this is Lieutenant Morel. Are you there?
Go for Lieutenant LAKAT.
Oh, Lieutenant, thank you. The team down here has been monitoring the speed of the crystalline entity, and I think we're going to be able to process this data and have a better idea of how exactly it moves. We've never actually documented how this thing flies at warp, except for the one time the Enterprise encountered it. We're getting more data now than the Enterprise ever had the opportunity to.
I understand that you may want to process that data as it comes in and maybe organize it. I really don't care. I want it in towards me as soon as it comes in because I want to read it too.
Okay. Would you like me to feed it directly to the science station on the bridge? I'm happy to do so.
Please do.
Making the connections now, and you should be seeing it now.
Actually,
and sure enough, you see all of these data readouts, and you see a small visual of the Ross aft. You can see this thing, an enhanced view of like the view screen, like zooming in. You can see this shard of living crystal flying after the ship. This thing is probably about half the size of the saucer section of the Ross, and it's a newborn. It's a scale 3 vessel. And it's hurtling towards the Ross, almost like it's chasing its mother.
I love that.
Yeah, you can see the sort of the modeled like lighting effects taking place inside the crystal. Morel says, initial scans would indicate that it is, well, it would appear that it's actually established a warp bubble of its very own. We don't know how it's doing this. It's using
what?
It's using some sort of ability that protects it from flying at warp, much like our deflector dish helps us when we establish warp bubbles. It's extraordinary. I've never seen anything like this before.
And it just knows how to do this. Was there any? Did it take to it immediately, or was there any like learning period for it, or did it just know that it had to do this?
Well, looking at the data, Lieutenant, are you seeing this? Let me show you. And brings it up. You see what Morel has done is Morel is looking at the moment you all flew to warp, basically looking at the entire journey and observing all of the behavior. LAKAT, as you're looking at this, you see what's getting Morel excited. Because as the Ross is going to warp, you're watching the data feeds, and you're watching sort of a looping replay of the aft as the Ross goes to warp and this crystal chases after the Ross. And you're seeing some of the sensor readings that are coming in. The frequency, the shape of the warp bubble. And LAKAT, for a moment, instinctively, your breath catches excitedly in your throat. This entity, it's theoretical, but it's very likely that this creature learned how to go to warp by watching the Ross go to warp. It's from looking at the data that's coming in, it looks like it's very likely that this creature observed the Ross building a warp bubble as it launched to warp, and it mimicked it. Like a mother teaching a bird how to fly for the first time. It seems like the crystal is able to observe, and it is following after you guys.
Good thing we didn't use any of our phasers yet, huh? This is amazing. Actually, quick... And like you see LAKAT stop for a second, and then she goes, LAKAT to McCrell?
Yes.
Have you named your child yet?
I was thinking... Crystal.
Beautiful.
Dead silence.
LAKAT out.
Xander, are you okay? Are you okay, Xander?
No. Actually, yes. Dr. McCrell to Chief Tech.
Go for tech.
I just wanted to thank you for your help in making sure the phasers could precisely cut where they needed. But after our close call with missiles, maybe we should change the phasers back before we forget.
That's a good call. I'll work with Prawl to sort of recalibrate them.
Yes, recalibrate. Good idea.
We're on it. You hear Prawl's voice come over. And at that moment, Vryn swivels and faces both EXEO and Captain and says, I got it. Sharpie. Because it's got...
Eyes on the road, Mr. Vryn.
Yes, Captain. And he swivels back in his chair. Unless there's any other scenes.
OLYN on the other chair, just like... I think OLYN is going to step up and around up to Prawl Station really fast.
Okay. As you approach Prawl, the Trill is constantly matching frequencies that are being fed to him by Chief Tech as they're basically realigning the sensor array to its maximum potential in case these Tholians want to throw a fist fight. The Ross will be ready. You just see the power levels fluctuating as he's refining it. Glances up at you and says, Ambassador, welcome back. How was your first contact mission?
Adventurous, I don't think, is quite the word to encompass what we experienced down there. And
Well,
you?
it's all been boring up here.
Oh, I'm very sure. Aside from all of the punchiness that we might have to prepare for, how are you enjoying your first real foray into exploration here in the Shackleton Expanse?
The Tholians are known tactically to use Tetrion energy in their weapon arrays. These energy bursts are known to drain ship power systems, specifically shields. If they throw down for a fight, the Ross is going to have to be pretty decisive. That's really what's the first and foremost on my mind. That, and also Tholian tactics are very difficult to understand. As you know, they're very alien, as they like to say, in a very crude way. When it comes to their thinking, we don't quite understand them. There's not a lot of intelligence on them. But I will say this. I have a lot of respect for them.
The entity is probably something akin to a god to them.
The key to defeating the Tholians is by disarming them with kindness to this entity.
At least for the moment, yes. Not entirely sure I envy your position right now.
Why is that?
I find that we are in what is possibly the most incredible and most difficult position we could be in as explorers and purveyors of Federation ideal and all of that, some such nonsense, whatever. And you are being asked to both protect a life and be ready at a moment's notice in case that turns out to not be the best way to handle this. And that is a very difficult choice. Well, not choice, but difficult position to be in.
Well, the key there, Ambassador, is I'm not being asked, I'm being ordered. And so it gets real simple for a guy like me. But I do get what you're saying. And that's why it has to be us. Sol knows what they're doing. You know what you're doing. Tech is frazzled as usual, but Tech knows what he's doing. Everyone knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
Vryn, he kind of looks down at the bridge and says, who the hell knows?
He's an incredibly competent pilot. I think that he's going to continue to surprise us.
Prawl gives a small smirk, and it's one of the few moments of levity you've seen from him, and he says, I like making fun of Ren because he's the best damn pilot I've ever seen. And there's no way I'm going to let that ego get to him.
The ways in which you show affection for your crew are truly astonishing, Commander Prahl.
And then you hear Vren down the bridge say, Captain, we're approaching the coordinates.
I'll leave you to it.
Just then, Prahl, he nods to you and then turns to Chief Tech. And or Tech, are you down in engineering? Are you in main engineering now, or are you on the bridge?
I'll be on the bridge because I'm working on recalibrating the sensor. Or the
The good news is you don't get penalized if you're not in a location. In Star Trek Adventures, it's literally a move to change like positions. So with the time elapse of the way things work in Starship operations, it's fine to be wherever you want to be, and then we can move you as needed. But yes, you're on the bridge. Prahl turns to you and says, "That should do it, Chief. They look good to me. If those aliens want to fight, we're gonna certainly bloody their nose. Let's hope it doesn't come to that."
Listen, I don't think we should really be worried about the Tholians. We got to make sure this crystalline entity doesn't eat the Tholians and us at the same time. We really got to get this baby some food.
Well, the good news is, he turns and looks at you with sort of like a moment of smirk on his face, is that we have data that shows the shields of the Ross will protect us entirely from any attack from the entity.
Well, as
So it
long
could
as
just
the
eat the
data
Tholians.
What's that?
Nothing.
LAKAT, did you have something?
No, she did not. We'll move on from that. We are not threatening the Tholians in any way.
I'm just saying we have another option in our pocket should we need it.
Now entering the unknown system, Captain. Coming out of warp, and you see the star field goes. As the star field returns, you guys return to normal space. Initiating LAKAT, just following procedure, initiating scans, like right when you're coming out of warp. I'll go ahead and give this to you. You apparently have entered into a system where there is only a single planet orbiting a main sequence star. The main sequence star is considerably large, however. It's about the size of Betelgeuse. It is enormous. The planet itself is roughly the distance from this star as Uranus is to the sun. So a distant light, but about the same size planet as well. It's a Class M planet. Not only is it a Class M planet, LAKAT, but it is teeming with life. All kinds of vegetation and tree life, but you're not detecting any animal life except for one ping on the sensors. A single, what looks like biological animal life form that immediately comes up.
So to clarify, single biological life form, one of those life forms specifically, not necessarily like there's 15 caribou on this planet and there's only 15 caribou kind of thing, right?
Only one.
Exactly.
Great.
You're detecting a single carbon-based life form.
Great.
On this planet's surface. And it does come into view. A friend brings it up on the view screen the moment you detect it on the sensors. And you see this thing coming into view.
What do I see?
So on the sensors, you see this, it looks like a jungle world, and gauging from like the temperature and the environment itself, it's a unique situation because, let's put it this way, it's in the Goldilocks zone, and it is literally the only celestial object in this system. It's a single planet, so it's an unusual looking system with one single orbiting body.
I'm more interested in my single life form, actually, the fact that there's only one of them down there.
Okay. As the Ross begins to draw closer,
yeah,
you're immediately contacted again. Dr. Yada to the bridge.
Oh, Dr. Yada.
Captain, I believe we've arrived at our destination, correct?
We have, yes.
Good.
Captain,
Lieutenant?
there's one single life form down there. I cannot discern what it is just yet, or can I? Like from my sensors? Do I recognize species, anything?
Go ahead and make a reason science check with the Ross helping you.
Great. Sweet.
Difficulty at this distance is about, I'd say 2.
Take a momentum if you want it. We have some.
Yes, please.
And then sensors command? Sensor science?
Sensor science.
Yeah, I'm using sensors. Okay, that's 2 successes from me.
When I boss the sensors around, we'll have sensors command, but until
Right. One from Ron.
Okay. A humanoid life form.
All right.
But you're not getting a lot of detail from it. However, it's not human. In fact,
it's not human.
does not register at all as human, doesn't register as Klingon, doesn't register as any known Federation race, does not register as Jashashian.
All right. So I tell this to my captain, and I don't know if you want to attempt to hail it, but I think that since it is the only creature down there at the moment, it might be a good idea.
I certainly don't want such a being there when our newborn baby has
Exactly.
a snack. So yes, if we can get in any kind of contact, Mr. Paul?
Opening hailing frequencies, Captain. Stand by. There's a beat, and then you hear Prawl just say, I'm getting a reply, Captain, but it's text only. It says, thank you. Everything should be fine. You are welcome to come down and visit. Message ends.
I mean, I think you understand why that would be a bad idea, Captain, considering the baby is about to go down there and eat everything on that planet.
Yes, I'm wildly aware.
Great, just making sure.
Hold on, I have to do a real quick correction. So, for player knowledge, the crystalline entity doesn't actually devour an entire planet's surface. It will consume life off of the surface, but it doesn't devastate the entire surfaces of planets. It has been known to destroy colonies. It's been known to destroy swaths of organic land. So, like, the planet isn't doomed.
That said, we've never dealt with babies and don't have any particular reasonable expectation of how its behavior might be different. It looks different than other crystalline entities we've seen. We don't know what kind of novelties there are or aren't. We know what the adults do, but an abundance of caution, as they say. And by they, I mean this they.
It is actually at that moment where you hear a chirping sound of alert, and then you see Prawl say, Captain, the entity is emerging from warp and proceeding towards us.
All right.
You hear LAKAT definitely tell her science officers to, like, watch it as it comes out of warp and see, like, how that whole situation goes down. But she's really still curious about this crystalline entity.
Morel almost forgets himself, and you hear him over the comms go, oh, I'm watching.
Yes. I need you to communicate to that life form on the surface right away that evacuation is most strongly recommended at risk of injury or death from an incoming life form. This is an emergency response. We are here and can assist with rescue if required.
Message is away, Captain.
Have the Tholians appeared yet?
Not yet, but there were only moments behind you guys.
2 first contacts in so many days. I'm not entirely sure I can contain myself. I wish we were under better circumstances.
Captain, the entity.
Yes.
You see it come up on the view screen, and the entity moves past the Ross and starts moving towards the planet.
Do we have any response from our life form?
No response, Captain.
All right. Let them know that we require a response in the next... Mr. Bren, how long until the entity starts its first little baby snack?
It'll be in orbit in the next 45 seconds, Captain.
There you are, Mr. Paul. 45. 44.
Chief Tech to Chief Singh, if you could please lock on...
This is saying go ahead.
Log onto the coordinates of that entity. I mean, there might be a chance that we are going to have to do an emergency beam out.
Aye, Chief. Prawl waits patiently as he sends another message away. I've got a reply, Captain. It just says. He looks awkwardly at the message for a second, and then he says, "It says just watch."
Well, we have our answer and have issued fair warning. Let us indeed hope that this baby has an adult's feeding patterns and doesn't aim for our life. Note the trajectory of the life form of the entity, and the location of the life form if it looks like it's starting to get snacky a little too close. Again, issue warnings. It's a terrible idea, but we cannot rescue the entire galaxy from their own judgment.
Yeah.
So you all watch, and Prawl brings up a tactical on the viewer with showing the trajectory of this entity, and you see it enter orbit of the planet. It actually does remarkably enter a perfect geosynchronous orbit with the life form down below, and nothing happens. The sensors begin to alert that there is a frequency that's being detected by the life form. Previously detected when the USS Enterprise attempted to communicate to the life form using pulses. LAKAT, you're detecting those pulses being emanated from the planet as well.
That's interesting. Can I run another scan on just those pulses?
Yeah, don't even bother rolling for it.
Okay.
The pulses are identical to the kinds of the information exchange that was being done between the entity and the Enterprise D. They're much lower frequency, and the sensors are barely able to detect them. But remarkably, it seems to be having some kind of effect, because all of you are watching on the view screen as this entity begins to slowly turn sideways, and then it moves away from its orbit. You see it actually accelerate towards the dark side of the planet, and a thin white beam of energy as it enters the atmosphere. Prawl says, Captain, the entity has entered the atmosphere of the planet and has initiated some sort of beam. I believe it's feeding, Captain.
Yeah, what told it to go the other way?
What was the origin of those gravitonic pulses? Did you find any equipment, anything that could issue such pulses?
Can I do a scan for that?
Yeah, go ahead and roll
Great.
Reason Science. The difficulty is 3. And the Ross can assist here for computer science, or sensor science, rather. 3 successes. LAKAT's gonna cat.
Cat's gonna cat. Yeah,
Nothing
3
from Ross.
successes.
Nothing from the Ross. Okay, so 3 is fine. The life form on the planet.
Yeah.
No, the life form on the planet is where those pulses were coming from. It wasn't from some sort of sensor or array. It wasn't from a computer. It wasn't from anything. It was coming from the life form on the planet.
Like the life form itself.
The life form itself was emanating a pulse that could be heard in space.
Absolutely fascinating. Incredible. Captain,
I'm sorry.
Message
continue.
to life form, very impressive. Kindly obey physics, I'm told it's the law.
Captain, can we go down there?
Or can we bring them up here?
That is what I am ever so gently trying to do. Ambassador, if you have any particular sweet talking, texting is open.
Vryn pipes up and says, "We did get an invitation."
Indeed, the life form did invite us to come down, and it appears that it is safe to do so.
Sure, but I don't know about y'all. I just tend to like to do things on my turf as opposed to other people's turf. But at the end of the day, it is your decision, Captain.
Olin just gives LAKAT a look. And LAKAT has seen this look from Olin many times.
And LAKAT just...
I'm away, team.
All right.
I didn't hear you, Sam. What was that?
Warm and away, team.
Vryn stands up and says,
LAKAT is right!
Vryn stands up and says, Captain, I'm sorry. Can I go, please, on this one?
What is your interest?
What was that, Sam?
What is your interest?
I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
What is your interest here? From?
Vryn's hand lowers slowly and says, I never get to go, Captain.
So. And I lean forward because to close the distance, because the stations are not so terribly far away from the captain's chair. That's why it's one of the two very lovely hot seats right along with LAKAT right there.
That's
so
about 12
I lean forward
feet.
just a little bit closer. I didn't hear that. I'm sure I'm going to hear a better reason that I'm going to take as truth. Try it again.
I'm combat trained pilot that knows how to operate any navigational system that might be required.
Now that sounds like an excellent reason to have you along on the away team. Wonderful reasoning, thank you very much.
EXEO does the signature Gina DeVivo chin tilt smile as EXEO kind of looks at you, Captain.
Actually, Captain, there are some things that we might want to consider when going on selecting people for this away mission, including, I think Vryn might be a great option for this since we might have to pilot a shuttle down itself. I don't know what the reactions for the crystalline entity in the atmosphere is in regards to beaming or any other sort of, well, technology. And I look over at Commander EXEO. Frankly, I don't know how your technology is going to react around these beings or pulses or anything. It might be dangerous for you to be down there, Commander. And frankly, I should be down there and I could use a backup in the tech department. And I'll look at the captain.
Well, you are in fact the chief of the tech department.
Ha 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 ha.
All right.
Who's on the away team?
Yeah, it appears everybody is volunteering today.
Everybody's going to go? Hey,
think
it's a
it
Star
would
Trek
be-
episode. It doesn't have to make sense. Everyone goes.
I think it would be beneficial to have a doctor to examine the new specimen of species that we are meeting.
You cannot tell me there's a species down there that emits, can talk into space, and I'm not allowed to go examine it?
LAKAT, it's also worth noting that this is an entire planet filled with alien plant life that
Also
has never
that.
been.
Yes, I also have a focus in botany. I'm interested in the leaves.
Right.
Leave
Okay.
them alone, Doctor.
Field trip.
All right.
Oh, single black coffee and we drive away.
Captain, are you going as well?
Yes, that was what
Okay.
tech was
EXEO's
alluding
gonna.
to.
Okay, cool. EXEO stays on the bridge. In that case, since you're all going, you load into the Danube class runabout.
I can stay if we need. Like if you don't.
We're not abandoning a single player. That is the worst method of organization.
Quick question.
We still haven't named this one. Renamed
Before
this
we
one.
move into the narrative here,
I have a name.
quick question before we move into the narrative. Have you officially named the Danube runabout yet? Or are we still calling it the San Antonio after the San Antonio River?
Yeah, we were supposed to come up with a name for this kid.
Right,
Homework.
but then Eric named it after the river that is also the name of his hometown in Texas. So, we actually can't change it. We are boxed in from the start. It
How
is the
about
San Antonio, and that is that. And I'm sure you have very lovely things to say about it, but this is done.
Then I'm gonna put this out there before we proceed. There's still an Argo-class shuttle that is yet to be used, the reconnaissance shuttle on the USS Ross. It's a reconnaissance transport. I'm going to pitch this to the Ox crew who's watching now. I would love for you guys to come up with the name for our Argo-class reconnaissance transport shuttle. So let's figure out a way where we can all like chime in and come up with some suggestions. Maybe we'll create a poll at some point, but start thinking about it and we'll get back to you guys. But we'd love it if the community could come up with a name for some of our shuttlecraft. It would be really cool.
Homework.
Yeah. All right. The lot of you make your way to main shuttle bay. The main shuttle bay of the USS Ross is the largest open space on the Ross itself. It takes up most of the rear of the saucer section. This place kind of looks like San Diego Comic-Con when it's empty, except for it's multi-tiered, and it has, of course, a second level where not only other shuttles are stored towards the ceiling, but you can, of course, see the flight control system room that lines the entirety of this brightly lit, glossy floored shuttle bay.
But where is Artist Alley?
It's big enough that you can actually hear, like, when you speak loudly, your voice echoes. It's one of those incredibly large cavernous rooms where hundreds of personnel are working at any given time. Striding in, kind of like the slow motion tombstone walk, is the senior staff of the USS Ross entering into the main shuttle bay. As you all enter the room, everyone stands at attention as you make your way over to the San Antonio. The Danube class runabouts, back doors just open as you all get on board, and you see Vren is like, oh man, I love runabouts. These really, like, Starfleet did good with these. These are nice ships.
I'll sit down next in the co-pilot because that's where the engineering station is on this particular shuttle, and I'll just be like, focus.
Vren stops and looks at you and says, Chief, this is me focusing.
Oh, no. I was talking to myself. There's so many buttons up here.
Oh, you're fine. Look, I'm a really good pilot. I know how to talk people calmly. You want me to talk you through this?
Sure. I would love to hear that.
All right.
From across the room, LAKAT's like, he's very good at it, and then just goes back to her work.
All right, here we go. You and me, Tech. You and me. 2 by 2. People of blue. Ready?
Yeah.
The doors begin to close. Everyone fastens in, and you feel the shuttle lurch a little bit as the tractor beam engages, and immediately Vren, breaking protocol, goes, nope, and you see him tapping a couple of buttons, and the tractor beam disengages. And he coasts the runabout out of the shuttle bay. And you see the Ross, the force field, as you enter in space. Just as you're leaving the main shuttle bay, you see something drop out of warp, just appear off in the distance, and the glint of light catching its sort of cobalt blue, iridescent like hull. And you hear EXEO coming through the comms go, Captain, the Tholians just arrived. Their weapon systems are offline. Their shields are down. They are not taking a posture just yet, and I'm keeping my eyes on them.
Good. Make sure we match their readiness level. Their
Understood.
shields are down, our shields are down. We come in peace.
They're moving a little closer to the planet, but they seem much more interested in the entity.
As they should be. Continue monitoring them as well as the entity.
Aye, Captain. Have a good trip.
I'll do my best not to be eaten while I'm there.
Vren guides you all into the atmosphere of this planet. And you encounter a world that looks ancient. As you break through the clouds, you have this trailing effect as the atmosphere kind of runs alongside of the runabout until you finally leave the upper, like this thick layer of moisture. As you break through the cloud cover, rain droplets immediately begin splashing across the front of the runabout. It's raining, even though the sunlight is crashing through the clouds, causing immediately you see vibrant rainbows stretching across a lush green valley of jungle growth and mountain terrain. This planet looks untouched. It looks like it has been this whole planet looks like a vibrant rainforest with tall peaks that match some of the most majestic mountains that can be found in China on Earth. These grass-grown, these strange rocky crags growing up. Sensors are indicating that you're not too far from the life form, and you hear Vren speak up and go, "Captain, I'm detecting a landing zone, and you're not going to believe this, but I'm actually detecting signs of technology down there. Weren't coming up on sensors before."
You know?
I like to run that scan. Oh, does this have scanning capabilities?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, go ahead and make a check real quick.
Love it. Great, 2 successes.
What's the assist roll from the San Antonio?
I've got it. I'm gonna roll. Let's see. So, all right. How many successes did you get?
2.
2. Okay, so just 2 successes then. But that's enough. The difficulty was only 1. So gain a momentum. Yes, you're detecting signs of power and technology. You're also detecting what seems to be what looks like the equivalent of atmospheric condensers. It's almost like you're detecting terraform technology.
Okay.
It's registering very faintly. And at this point, too, as it's popping up on sensors, you hear Vren just say, "Oh, there's our landing spot."
Can I do one more sensor scan?
What would you be scanning for?
So basically, I'd like to try and compare the material that technology is made out of to the material that's that I've observed the most on this planet to see if it actually originated from this planet.
That's an obtain information check.
Do we have enough momentum, you guys?
We're at full momentum. Yes, yes.
Yeah, then I would like to use that.
The answer is yes, LAKAT. The technology seems to be bioengineered. It's organic.
Right.
This has only been recorded in one other species. Thankfully, this doesn't resemble that species. A very dangerous species that Voyager encountered in the Alpha Quadrant. An advanced bio sort of technological race.
What was the name of that race for Revati, who does not?
The Undine.
Okay, great.
You're technically known as the Undine, but or species 8472, as the Borg like to classify them.
Cool.
Fortunately, we are altogether not in a fluidic enough space.
Yeah. So
Undine will have to sing their siren song another place.
As you touch down, someone enters the landing area as you're approaching. So as the repulsors kick in and you begin to feel the San Antonio begin to drift into a stationary position and lower to the planet, as you're touching down, someone emerges from the jungle. And what you see emerging from the bush, if you would like to, we'd like to introduce our guest player for the night. Would you like to go ahead and describe what you look like as you emerge from this ancient jungle?
You see a short in stature creature that is bipedal, humanoid-ish, but with very different proportions from you. So strong lower body, very thick legs and thighs and hips, and then a very small, narrow shoulder, waist, and upwards. Long, gangly arms. Skin is dark pink, blue, and purple with a shimmery glaze over it. And instead of hair, there's kind of just this crest that's just a part of her body as well. And it looks almost like a combination of a crown and a cape that just kind of crests over her head and goes down her back. And she's wearing clothes, but they're strips of natural looking fibers.
The cat, upon sight of this life form emerging from the jungle, I'll tell you right now, it's confirmation of what you scanned. The Federation has never encountered a species like this before. This is another new species. Another first contact.
What luck! 2 in a few days? This is amazing.
And the only sapient, apart from whatever the intelligence is of the entity, the only intelligent creature walking this planet. The doors begin to open, and I'm having a flashback Sorry, as the doors were opening, I immediately started flashing back to a Galaxy Quest.
Oh no.
You too, Xander. Don't open that. It's an alien planet. So the doors, as they lower, of course, the computer readouts have told you that this atmosphere is oxygen rich. It actually explains why some of the life here is so, yes, Jody, massive. There are trees reaching kilometers high. Trees that would put the forests of Kashyyyk to shame. I'm not going to dig on Star Wars, not today, but huge trees reaching towards the sky. As you all emerge from the shuttle, this being, judging from the way this being moves, it's difficult to say because it's the first time you've ever encountered one, but judging from the way it moves, it almost appears elderly as she moves closer to the shuttlecraft and waits patiently for you all to disembark. Captain, you taking the lead along with OLYN MADZHIN-NIL, your ambassador. Everyone else following the captain behind. The temperature of this planet is balmy. It's got, you can already kind of, you see Vren just go, yeah, I like this place. It is really hot.
LAKAT's loving it.
All right, the lot of you slowly make your way down the pad and see yourself standing in front of this being. And it's quiet for a moment as you all make eye contact for the very first time. Ree, this is the first time you have seen sapient organic life in maybe 2-3 million years.
I squint my eyes and look at each of them very closely. So you decided to come for a visit after all?
Risk is our business, and it is a risky time to come for a visit. It's lovely to meet you. This is the senior staff of the USS Ross, and I'm Captain Azari Sel. With whom do I have the pleasure of speaking?
My name is Radius. I am the gardener of this world, you might say. And I must... Thank you. I've had a lot of time to invest in this place. I must thank you for bringing the entity over. We've been needing something like this for a while to keep things in balance.
Vren leans into you, LAKAT, and says, did she just say we've been needing an entity here?
Did she just say 2 or 3 million years? Wait, was that something you said, Eric, or was that something she said?
That was something
about?
I said, yeah.
Okay, that was something that I was internally freaking out about.
That's a meta knowledge. I was narrating for Eliza,
okay.
but
that's my brain stopped at that moment, being like, "What the fuck?"
Let's save that because
Anyway.
I'm sure Ree will say something at some point.
Great.
Let's say I did say it
so,
out loud.
So let's rewind. Let's say
Oh, never mind.
Bren said
Sure,
to
let's
me.
say I did. Let's say
Look
I did
at,
say
we're
that.
gonna say
Okay.
Eliza's pulling a narrative card. We're gonna say that she did say that out loud.
Okay, great. Did she just say 2 or 3 million years?
Yeah.
I lean to Bren and tell him that.
Vren just goes, "Oh, I didn't catch that. I stopped listening after the entity part. Did she say 2 or 3 million years?"
I
Are
think
you
so, but I've
speaking to
stopped
me or
listening
to each
after
other?
everything else after that. We should probably be listening right now. I say to
Are
Bren,
you-
and then
It seems like you're speaking to each other, but you're talking about me. I can hear very well.
Oh,
I may seem very old.
no,
I am very old.
we are talking about you, and that's very rude, and I apologize. We shouldn't have done that. We just
I just look at OLYN because just all the history that OLYN and I have, she LAKAT knows that she's not that great at talking, so she's gonna let OLYN handle this one.
okay.
It is an incredible honor to meet you, Radius. And also, we cannot even begin to express our excitement at everything that is occurring right now. We sensed from our ship with our technology that you were speaking to the entity, something that has not been accomplished in quite a long time, and that we as our particular group have only discovered the means to do not so long ago, and not to any really great effect. We have so many questions.
Well, I would be happy to answer them. Have you eaten?
No! We are so hungry! What do you eat? Do you eat? Is this? Are you the planet, or are you just this entity, or are you an extension? What do you eat? Is it the plants? Do you eat these? Are they good?
I'm answering this first question right now. I'm not the planet. I eat the bounty of the planet, but I am my own entity, if that's what you mean.
Yep, that answered my question.
Wonderful.
I just
Only take the time really fast to introduce each member of the crew to Radius.
Okay.
Am I getting that right? It's Radius?
Mhm.
Okay, yeah.
The introductions are happening as I've turned and I motioned to them to follow me into the jungle.
Okay.
And so
I'm
the
very much
introduction-
following. Stopping isolytic warheads is hungry work, it turns out.
You follow this mysterious ancient being into the jungle. Despite the fact, if she is to be believed her age, she looks pretty good for a 3 million plus year old creature. She
Please don't
moved.
drink.
Yeah. I mean, it's, you know, talk about quarantine.
Vegans.
By yourself on a planet. You move deftly. You watch her as she moves very deftly over roots and whatnot, but she is actually, looks like, what's remarkable is you're starting to see signs of structure. You're starting to see signs of a home as you get deeper and deeper into the jungle. But what's remarkable is it's when you're looking at some of these trees, some of these trees look like they're actually technology that has been organically grown and formed into a living computer-like system. Some of them actually look very similar to if a tree and some kind of sensor device was one item at the same time. So you're looking at this bark growing out of this ground and twisting gnarled roots reaching up to a shorter tree, but there's this bioluminescent moss that's pulsing all the way down, like it's reading, like you're getting biological, like from your tricorder, you're getting all these biological pulses that, if you didn't know any better, the tree is scanning you as you walk by.
Yeah, can LAKAT fall behind to scan one of the trees right back?
I mean, yeah, you just kind of raise your tricorder as you're walking past it, and your tricorder and this tree are basically shaking hands. It's like the technology is scanning each other for a moment. And while the tricorder is responding in a very succinct, like data-like way, the tree is sending out pulses and getting information back. That's LAKAT. When you raise the tricorder up, because you're kind of following where these pulses are leading, and you all are starting to realize that all across the treetops and the upper canopies are these pulses of bioluminescence that just run in like down, like almost like runway lights up in the trees and the branches all above your heads. If you were to glance at it, it would almost look like little bioluminescent bugs just running at full speed through the branches of these trees. But there seems to be an organic network. If you didn't know any better, looking at the data, LAKAT, you might be walking through a mainframe right now, a biological computer network that is currently functioning and scanning and running information and sending data as you all are moving through this jungle. The home you see in front of you has a less organic look. Elisa, did you have an image of that, or would you like me to take that?
I can start, and please add details.
Let's do it. Yeah. Let's find out where she lives.
You see a multi-level home that is kind of square in shape, like a cake, like a stacked cake, with the layers set back from one another, so not exactly stacked up, but stacked like stairs, a staircase cake. And you see wide windows that look like there's no glass there, but there's some type of shimmer, so there's some type of barrier. There's vines all over the walls and ceilings, and that's all I got.
Okay. The walls themselves, at one point, may have been made out of some kind of material, but it's been claimed by the jungle. And it looks like the walls have become petrified wood. They resemble something that probably at one point was a metal, perhaps. It's difficult to say, but now it's been claimed by the planet. It looks like it's stone, ancient wood, and it's all been carved and meticulously moved around and formed into a structure that predates human civilization. You all are underneath this great tent of like canopy of organic leaves and whatnot that drift down, constantly raining. These beautiful, rich green leaves are just drifting from the treetops above as the wind is catching in the leaves overhead, creating this dappled path leading up to this with shafts of light cresting down to the tops of the trees. This looks like some kind of hidden home underneath the canopy of these ancient trees. And the bioluminescent pulses that you're seeing running throughout the jungle all lead to this one spot. Inside, you can see the amber glow of what you can only guess must be computer consoles and areas for interacting with this biological system. And the smells that are emanating from it are unique, different, slightly with a slight spice to it, but also this sort of thick heaviness. All of you enter this area, and as you enter the home, the interior looks quite sparse, but it's also been claimed by the jungle. However, the furniture, the bed, presumably, everything around here it doesn't look like it is sculpted from organic life. It looks like it has harmonized, like it has cooperated into a function that meets the needs of this creature. You're inside.
I like your computer. Bioluminescence operating on an analogous principle to fungal filigree communication between trees?
In a manner of speaking, yes. That's part of it.
And the rest?
With all due respect, I'm not sure I could thoroughly explain it to you and have you understand.
Ah, that is what I have a science officer for, to insist that, in fact, she can understand.
Well, welcome to my home. I hope you'll find it comfortable enough for your needs. And again, I look at each one of them, kind of look them up and down and say, I think I can find a meal that's suitable for all of us.
Wait, what? How?
I turn and go to the kitchen.
Okay.
Feel free to explore, or you can join me in the kitchen.
And she...
What?
Bren is looking around just going, this is amazing. This is
amazing.
This is amazing.
You know, if I could pick any version of my future, I think this would be it. Living alone on this planet in this kind of place. This is amazing.
Well, you better get some scans going and see how it's done.
Yeah, I think it's so LAKAT is definitely like down to go get scans, and she is going to in a second, but you do see some hesitation because I think just like being invited into people's spaces is always just like a little like it's a little too personal for her, but like eventually her curiosity overcomes that and she's like, I'm gonna go explore. So she gets up immediately and yeah, I'd love to run a scan on this place.
Okay.
I would be running scans on the life that I'm discovering, the plant life as well.
All right. So then what we'll do first, LAKAT, you wander outside Vryn follows after you, just looking around, and says, "Okay, I don't want to mess up your vibe because you're doing your science thing. So I'm going to stay here, but I'll be on comms if you need anything."
Why do you think you'd mess up my vibe?
I talk a lot, especially when
we've been sitting next to each other for
months. Yeah, months.
Yeah, months. Yes. So I think, I love that you're like concerned about messing up my vibe right now when we're in the middle of like not a dangerous situation, as opposed to when we were facing down a threat. Anyway.
That's true. That's actually kind of true. Maybe I'm just not used to.
You're not messing up my vibe. She cuts.
You know what? I bet what it is.
No, you're not messing up my vibe.
Okay, then let's go. Where do you want to go? Pick a direction.
I don't know. Where do you want to go?
I
could literally go anywhere. Do you want to go up?
Let's go up.
Let's go up. Can we climb a tree?
I think so. I've not a lot of trees on Andoria, but I'll do what I can.
I walk right past them and
Cardassia
go.
is all mountains. I've never climbed a tree before. I've only climbed mountains.
I walk right past them, and because I obviously heard their conversation, go, I can, and just start climbing.
Yeah.
Oh, we're going to have to get the fire department, aren't we?
He nods to you, and then Vryn turns back to you, LAKAT, and goes, I've done a lot of ice climbing. It can't be that different. I guess we'll just go find a good tree.
I mean, what constitutes as a good climbing tree, do we think? Probably like handholds, right? Like
handholds. If there's like good vines, maybe like some good vine action.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
Fine.
That's my guess.
Let's go find a tree.
Good for the vine.
God. All right. So you and Vryn skip away like two delighted children looking for in this like new land of biological wonder.
It's like a Chuck E. Cheese if a Chuck E. Cheese was made entirely of new plants that you've never seen before.
Right.
So we're very excited.
You win at the scanning game, you're going to get the little plasma ball.
Yeah.
That Tech and I have the same idea. We're going to the kitchen.
Okay, so you follow her into the kitchen, basically.
Actually, so so we kind of see everybody spread out, and then Macrell does her thing. But then I'm gonna grab the doctor. Doctor, this is me being responsible. If I'm gonna put things into my mouth, I would just rather you be with us.
Yes, I can make sure that whatever goes into your mouth is adequate.
Or whatever happens afterwards. Let's go.
Oh, that too. Yes.
The kitchen is a hot spring in the dead center of the room. It wells up into almost a mound, and then you can see purified boiling water literally just cascading out of what looks like a petrified tree stump. Again, it looks like things have been fed through here, and it drains out the bottom of this room. By the way, here you can actually see that this section of this living space appears to be at altitude, where it wasn't so obvious before. Entering to this kitchen area, you're actually finding that one side of the kitchen overlooks a mountain range and is probably a good 300 feet up from the next shelf. However, completely supported by all of these vines and undergrowth of wood. When she moves into the room, she just starts plucking things from the tops of this kitchen and throwing them into this boiling hot spring.
This is incredible.
Yes, there's much to discover here. The tall green one, that's your captain, right?
Yeah.
Is the captain in the room right now? This is Eliza asking.
Azuri,
Yeah,
where are you?
Captain is going to be at the doorway of the kitchen, effectively posted up in order to have eyes on all of the misbehaving children.
Okay. All right.
Once I've gotten some goodies to start cooking on the hot spring stove, I turn to the door and look intently at the tall green one.
Okay.
I think I have something for you. Actually, you have something for me.
I'm so
And I
glad
turn-
to hear. It would be ungracious of me not to bring a gift to the host.
Well, gifts can come in many forms. This is a gift that you didn't know that you would be giving me. And I turn and I reach into there's a hedge that's basically the cabinet. I reach into the hedge. And I pull out a small square moss-covered box, for lack of a better word.
It's the one thing that doesn't look like it's forged out of pure organics.
And I present it to them. You should open it right now.
Far be it from me to refuse.
Inside is what is perhaps the last piece of original technology from this creature's stay here. It is a data pad, also brightly lit in amber-like colors, but about the same size as one of the larger data pads that Starfleet uses. However, this one looks like it has rods and rods and rods of data storage plugged into the sides of it. And what's miraculous about the power system is it's constantly looping and regenerating its own power core. You're not sure how it's doing that. If she's as old as she says she is, and this data pad is as old as she is, or older, this thing should be well on its way. This thing is we're talking like Iconian technology, ancient, incredibly ancient tech, well beyond what has been recorded. You don't recognize any of the symbols, but the moment you open it up, you see the data pad begin to fluctuate and activate.
I put my hands, I'm about 5 feet tall. So I look up at the captain and come close and put my hands on their elbows and kind of lean in very intimately and look up into their face and say, there is an entire beautiful world that you may not be aware of. And it needs guarding, and it needs keeping, and it needs protecting. And I need you to do it for me, because I am so tired. So tired. And I turn and go back to the stove. I'm telling you, millions of years take their toll on you. I am grateful to have had this post, but I was supposed to be relieved a long time ago.
The weeding alone, I imagine.
Oh, you have no idea. There's an entire species. Let me tell you right now, that beautiful newly born creature you brought to me, I sensed it, I felt it, because there hasn't been one for so long, so many millennia. And we've needed it because there are these how would you call it? These single cell organisms on the other side of the planet that I started cultivating. And I realized that the thing they need to live is Bitrium. Do you know what Bitrium is? Bitrium is impossible to make. It's impossible. What was I thinking when I created this colony? And now they take up so much space on the other side of the planet. The only thing that can feed them is that beautiful creature you brought me. And I start serving them food.
Because Bitrium is a byproduct of its process.
What also clicks to you, Captain? What's also clicking to you is how exasperated she seems by the fact and how much room she seems to think single-celled organisms are taking up on this planet. It's underlying the fact that what you're getting a sense of immediately is that she perceives reality much differently. She has a scope of perception.
A microscope, one could even say.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Whatever the food was served, it's already in Tech's mouth. Was it, I assume, sort of like a soup or like a dumpling or
yeah, dumplings, like gravy and dumplings type thing.
Ooh, I love it. It's so fresh. You can taste it. It's in season.
You hear a chirping noise suddenly come through your communicator, Captain.
Sol,
Captain, you're about to have company.
what kind of company?
Sensors are detecting a Tholian beaming down to your location. There's only one.
You
Interesting.
Want me to take care of this, Captain?
Copy that. Stand by, please, Ambassador. Yes. No harm is going to come to this place, of course. I'm sure this is a wellness check and nothing more. If you'll pardon me for just a moment, and I am going to put the ancient pad down by tech, so that if anything went pear-shaped, the pad is away and all right.
Right.
All right, promise not to spill anything on it, Captain.
And I loom just a little bit.
So the first person to see this creature is actually Mackrell, who's just out the front door and doing Mackrell things, as Mackrell had declared. Mackrell, the entity, that being that beams down in front of you, it causes you to freeze dead in your tracks as you glance up at it. Because it's unlike anything you've ever seen. You know Tholians. You know, you have an understanding of what their bodies essentially look like.
Yes.
They're multi-legged. They almost have an arachnid-like appearance. Their bodies are a deep reddish, like crystal-like structure. But you also know from Starfleet records that Tholians cannot exist out of their incredibly hostile environment without the help of environmental suits.
Yes.
And oh boy, does this one have an environmental suit. The Tholian that stands in front of you, at the top of, by its, what you assume it must be the tips of its shoulders, stands close to about 9 feet. And the head of this creature, this environmental suit, probably reaches somewhere upwards towards 10. This thing is completely armored. If, to give you, the players, a better idea of what it looks like, the Tholian looks like a mech. It's completely decked out in what looks like a mechanized environmental suit that will completely encompass it. The only thing that resembles something vaguely Tholian-esque about it is the fact that you can see its appendages that are arms and the 2 long, like clawed fingers that function as one of its like fingers, essentially. The armor itself is kind of like almost brass, like gold plated, and it has this blue iridescence like glow, along with this amber and yellow lights that are glowing off the leg apertures that are coming off the side of it. This thing looks like an arachnid in a tank had a baby. Has this big, completely glossed over, what you have to assume is kind of like the helmet window, but it takes up the entire upper half of the body of what would be this Tholian. When it beams in, you hear this as it just swivels to turn and face you. And immediately you hear this voice, this screeching sound that's being muffled, and underneath, coming through a translator in the suit, you hear, "Where is Captain Sol?"
I'm just going to look up and look it in the eye as best I can, being 5'4".
And there's no eyes. You can only just see this gloss, this like complete sheen of like a glass wall, some kind of metal glassed wall.
I'm just going to look in that general direction and go, "Oh dear, I feel so underdressed." Because it's all decked out. It's Mackrell's attempted humor.
If the Tholian understood you, it doesn't react. But a few moments later, Captain Sol, you emerge. Captain, it's worth noting that a Tholian has not been seen this close since Captain Archer encountered one a long time ago, back on the Enterprise. Lots of Enterprise references. No one has actually seen a Tholian in its suit like this up close and personal. And it's a little disarming when this thing goes and swivels, turning back towards you.
Oh, I assure you, I'm not disarmed at all.
Is there a way while this is happening to make some kind of medical scan of some kind while the captain has its attention, just
Sure.
so I can kind of get an idea of maybe its armor and biological signs, and also maybe any weaknesses in the armor in case something happens to where we
A basic
know
medical
that-
scan?
Thank
You just want to scan
yes.
this thing.
Yes.
So then here's what you can do. You can roll so are you scanning it Are you scanning for its biology, or are you trying to? Because here's the thing: you're asking for two different things. Are you
Yes.
scanning its body, like trying to get a sense of what it is biologically and how it's operating, or are you scanning the suit to discover what kind of weapons and weaknesses it has?
The second one.
Okay, that's going to be a science roll. So you're going to make a reason science check.
All
We're gonna
right.
drop the
Reason science. All right.
We're going to
Okay,
drop
I can-
we're going to drop the difficulty by 1 because you're using a tricorder.
All right.
So the difficulty is going to be 2.
I'm gonna take a momentum.
Okay.
I can do this. Yes, good. I will like also to roll this one again.
Okay.
Okay. 2 successes. But if I could use a focus, they'd both be crits. But I
Okay.
can't.
Here's what you get. A quick scan reveals that this armor is tough.
Yes.
It automatically grants the Stolian a resistance of 2 versus lethal, and a resistance of 3 versus non-lethal damage.
Yes.
It's tough armor.
Mm.
The Tholian on the inside is clearly older than your standard Tholian. It's a lot more well grown. It's a lot bigger than a standard Tholian. As with Tholians, they change gender as needed. It's very difficult to tell what phase they're in their life.
Yes.
But Tholians typically embody sometimes both if they need to. They're a very mysterious species. The armor itself, though, is tough. You're getting a sense that this functions as a life support suit, Macrel, but this is also, if needed, can be a deadly battle platform.
Yes.
It does have a weapon on it that is not apparent, but you are detecting what Prawl would have described as a Tholian, sort of like a Tholian beam weapon is located somewhere on it. Since you made the roll, I'll tell you that the beam weapon itself is very deadly, and it has the vicious quality.
Yes.
However,
I'm
it is not currently powered. It doesn't look like the defensive systems on the armor have been activated. Currently, it's in standby mode. Everything is in standby mode.
Yes.
The interior of this suit is the temperature inside the suit, however, I will tell you, would kill you instantly.
Great.
So
I'm going to slowly, as I look at these results, go near the captain with my tail slightly bristled, and I will also be on standby mode.
okay.
Can I ask real quick, how far are Ren and LAKAT from this? Like, have we noticed anything, or are we just off in some trees?
Yeah, y'all are off. Y'all are off on the playground right now.
All right.
Climbing trees, having a my girl moment where it's just like 2 kids getting mud all over their jeans, kind of thing.
Love it.
A few moments later, so this event has happened. So the Tholian turns to face you, Captain, and says, "Are you Azari Sol?"
I am. And you?
I am Commander Vosrax. And again, in the background of this highly modulated sounding, like almost monotone voice, you can hear the screeching of the Stolian's actual voice. If you could hear the Stolian actually speaking, it would be very uncomfortable to your ears.
It would sound exactly like Mondays, yes.
Mm-hmm.
It is very uncomfortable to my ears.
You have delivered the creature.
Yes. And it appears to a planet, a rare, very lucky planet, where the entity could integrate healthily into the existing ecosystem. It's a rare opportunity for the little thing.
Bipedal humanoids cannot be trusted. You have proven yourself. You have proven that you possibly could be friend.
I'm honored, but no less important is our joint goal of seeing the previous sins of Federation members against the crystalline entity redeemed in some small measure.
You hear the just servos as it seems to react to that. And the commander seems to regard you for a moment. It's difficult, of course, to read this being. There's no way to ascertain what its, expressions are. After a moment, it takes a step back, and the commander says, I wanted to look you in the eye and get a measure of you before we departed. I will give you this courtesy, since you have kept your word, humanoid. We do not wish you harm now, but we will protect the entity with our lives.
Should we understand, then, that your intent is to stay in this part of space?
This is none of your business.
I'm afraid you will find that the well-being of that entity very much is our business, and while you do attempt to take custody, you aren't the only one with an interest. We want it to thrive safely and happily, just as much as you do. And it makes absolutely no difference to me whether you believe me on that measure or not. It just does so happen to be true. So I ask you again. Do you intend to stay in this part of space with the entity?
You have your answer.
I'd like to make a sense motive roll.
Okay.
Since we're taking measures right now.
Can I also assist with that?
Yeah, if you want to emerge from the house as well. Emerging from the house, you have now definitely seen everything. This creature looks nothing like the humanoids that have come to visit you. And you can immediately sense this rigid, contained hostility coming from this being. You also get a sense, Ree, that this being isn't... There's something off about this creature. Almost as though it exists in and out of this time. As though it does not belong here. It immediately, you get a sense looking at it. It's like seeing a puzzle piece that fits, but it belongs in another picture. And it has this sort of guarded hostility towards the captain. It also seems quite confident that it could kill everybody it needs to kill right now. And its posturing isn't coming from ego. In fact, this empathic sort of sense that you're getting from this being is indeed, as the Federation like to constantly dismiss and call, it's very difficult to truly understand the depths of its motivations. It thinks, feels, and experiences in a very different way. And it's a unique sensation to be in its presence. But you definitely sense that it is, it does not have the genuine intentions of the crew that has rallied around you and asked you a bunch of questions, to whom you've passed off data to. This creature is wholly different and seems specifically honed in on this entity.
I'd like to say, if I can, that I was listening from just inside the house.
Okay.
And so now when I emerge, I've already been listening, and I am carrying my crystal walking stick, which is kind of like, looks like a thick spike of crystal. And I'm just using it as a walking stick, not threateningly at all, but I do have that with me.
So the crystal walking stick that you withdraw, all of you guys see this too. This amber colored, like deep crystal walking stick just comes out. And the Tholian stiffens and straightens up at the sight of it.
And I just walk up to, and I stand just kind of diagonally behind the captain, and I just look at the Tholian curiously, and I'd like to join in on a roll if
what would you like to do?
I'd like to read their intention, the Tholian's intention.
Okay, so you can get a bonus here. You're basically going to do an assist. So,
Okay.
Captain, go ahead and make the roll.
Yes, difficulty?
The difficulty of this, it's a Tholian.
Mhm.
The difficulty, actually, this is going to be a contested roll. So the difficulty is going to be 1 against his roll.
Understood. We're currently maxed on momentum.
I'm spending 2 threat to buy.
So
Nick.
I took
So
one
Jurian
when I
taking-
did the scan.
Oh, all right. Then
Yeah, I took one.
having said that, I'm still gonna do it though. That's
I bought a die with
all.
my last threat.
Lovely. There's always something beneath the surface. I'd like to use my determination.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hold on. What was yours?
There's always something beneath the surface.
I'm looking at his values to call upon a determination, and I'm going to rule that none of these would apply here. None of these would apply here. But now you know he's a major NPC, so he does have a talent that'll come into play.
I thought he was a commander, not a major.
Ha ha ha. All right, go ahead and make your roll.
And I roll just 1 die?
Yeah, just 1 die. And you're going to roll your insight and command.
Insight and command.
Okay.
Remind me, it's below, right?
Yeah. Been a while.
Yeah. I missed by 1.
Oh, okay. What'd you get, Sam? Sorry, are you flashing fingers because I was not on the screen?
No, 7.
7 successes?
Mhm.
Okay.
Do I win?
Yeah,
Okay,
considerably.
good.
Um,
I was worried there.
You're reading
You
his
did not
intentions? Okay, so reading the Tholian's intentions. First of all, with 7 successes, I'll tell you 2 things. He was telling the truth. First of all, you get the sense that he was telling the truth. He was literally just beaming down here because he wanted to look you in the eyes. Wanted to find out who was in command and wanted to get to know who it was that he was talking to. Or he was the leader that he was trying to negotiate with. Tholians definitely have a different sort of way they engage people. The impression you get, and it's slightly chilling, the impression you get is he is 100% confident that he can deal with you. Whatever, if he can or if he can't, remains to be seen. But he, as a Tholian, he absolutely believes in his capacity. And as a result, you're getting this impression. It's not that he's unimpressed. It's not this sort of like haughtiness at all. It's like a calculation. So when you kind of lay down your thing, even when McCrell begins to posture a little bit, it doesn't process in him the way it might through another organic being. The impression you're getting is this is a whole new animal. And probably not easy to truly predict or provoke.
Sure. Tholian.
Tholian.
With that in mind, what I would really like to get from that is the extent to which that the Tholian is taking me at my word.
Oh, okay. So spend momentum for obtain information.
What were the number of the Tholian successes so I know what amount of momentum we're at?
You should be maxed out.
All right. Cool.
Yeah.
Then sure, I will spend 1 for obtain information because they think of the Federation as murderers, and given the way that Tholians think, given the kind of being Tholians are liable to ascribe collective blame or collective motivations. I am talking a very, very different party line than clearly the murderers.
Right. Okay.
What I centrally want to know is the extent to which anything that we have said or done toward demonstrating not our cooperation with the Tholians, but our interest in the well-being of the crystalline entity has in any way penetrated that skull.
Okay.
Exoskeleton?
There's a couple of things that happen. When you're getting a read on this and the emergence of Ree coming out of the house, the reaction from the Tholian is a little surprising. Because as Ree comes to stand behind you and kind of squints her eyes and gets a feel of this creature, the Tholian takes a couple of steps back and seems to retreat a little bit from Ree. The impressions you're getting based off of the question you just asked, the Tholian seems to be taking you at face value. You also get the impression that it's not coming down here to gloat or threaten, but that it too is trying to, it is, let me put it this way, it is paying you a respect, and that is telling. In Tholian culture, that it wanted to meet you face to face, and that it wanted to inform you, here's our line that I'm drawing in the sand. The fact that they didn't simply shoot first and ask questions later like Tholians have been known to do would indicate that this creature not only believes you, but has a modicum of respect for you. Probably because you kept your word and proved that you were right, and that you were true, and that you didn't harm the entity when you could have. Plus, the entity followed you. It was vulnerable without the Tholians, and you still didn't harm it. So you get the impression the Tholian seems to have that going for you. However, its reaction to Ree is what leads to what happens next, which is the Tholian begins to dematerialize in front of you as it beams off planet. You see it, and it's gone.
Can I startled, my friend?
I didn't mean to. I guess I am pretty imposing, all 5 feet of me.
Oh, the 5 feet that are there, quite intimidating.
I'd like to see retrospectively if I can place whether that Tholian was from the past or present, because I felt like it was out of place. So can I roll to see?
Not really.
No.
It's sort of like a sixth sense that you have. And very much like if you know how like Guinan can tell things are not right. It's kind of that same sixth sense that this creature doesn't belong here. I don't know why, but it doesn't belong here.
I turn to Captain Soul, and once again I grab their elbow. For some reason, I really like to grab their elbow.
It's a good height.
It's a nice, it's a perfect height. It's like my shoulder.
I do too. A good height.
I look up at Captain Soul.
Not now, just in general.
I'm not sure where or when that person is from, but they're not from this time, and I think you helped to ease some of their worries. They're protecting something. I have a sense that there are some consequences that they felt would happen if things in this time weren't squared away with that crystalline entity. And I think you helped them feel good about that.
That's what we are here to do in the Federation, to seek out new life and to put the ones we know at ease as best we can.
Ree, at that particular moment, you start to feel a sensation that you've never felt before, this wave of exhaustion come over you. Something that you knew would one day come. You immediately just feel this creeping up inside of you. almost like you're exhaling a little bit.
Well, it's been lovely having you here. You're free to explore more if you like, but I must go to rest now.
Are you feeling all right?
Oh, I'm feeling like my job is done. And that feels more than all right. It feels wonderful. And like a grandma does, I just kind of pat them as I turn and pass them and go back into the house slowly.
As you're slowly moving into the house, Tech is coming out of the house with dumplings all over and just going, "You gotta give me the recipe! These are amazing!" And I'll move out of the way.
Okay.
Recipe? I wouldn't even know how to tell you how to make them. I just make them. I don't measure anything.
Some cooks, my goodness. I'm following Ree in to get the pad that I had left with Tech, who has his hands full of dumplings.
Okay, you reach over and take underneath this pile of food, just gently take this ancient pad out from underneath.
I didn't spell.
As you pull this pad out and you look at Ree seems to be dimming to you, almost like there's no other way of describing it. There's nothing emanating, there's nothing literal about this, but you can immediately sense, Azuri, that their light is going out.
The Odin sleep is upon her, I understand.
Do the trees feel it?
Not the trees don't necessarily feel it, but you notice that as Ree enters the house leaning on her crystal walking stick, glancing down Ree, you can't help but feel a little bit of contentment as you notice that your feet have started to meld with the petrified wood in the floor. Almost like the jungle is returning the favor.
OLYN has also started to move out of the house, and I guess would be passing Ree as they exit. I guess they would... am I able to sense her emotions? Is that something?
Yes.
I do?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can sense her emotions.
Okay. Some species I can't, so I just wanted to see.
Sure. Tell me what Ree is feeling, Eliza.
Oh.
Eliza Pearl has left. Let's Eliza.
Like she really did disappear. It's magic.
Eliza, tell me what Ree is feeling as the ambassador uses their empathy.
The ambassador is feeling a wave of just a combination of this like deep, utter exhaustion, but the contentment that comes with knowing you're about to sleep forever. And just this really warm, intense contentment just boiling over.
And OLYN kind of reaches out and places a hand on her shoulder. Somehow I think you know how many lives you saved today. Thank you.
I'm glad I got to meet you.
I don't think I can even begin to tell you how glad I am that I got to meet you.
You watch kind of shock as before your very eyes, you start watching Ree begin to become part of the trees around her. She even begins to sprout leaves from her legs and grow as this sort of bioorganic, the bioluminescence begins to illuminate the insides of her veins as the jungle seems to be claiming her slowly right before your eyes. It's about this moment that LAKAT and Vren come right back into the room.
I was
with
scanning
everybody
for
else.
LAKAT too.
Yeah.
I knew she'd appreciate it.
Everybody kind of comes right back into the room at the same time and freezes as they're watching this happen. You just see this soft look of contentment on her face as she looks at the last faces that she'll ever see. This gentle smile. Ree, your eyes drift down to the data pad that you handed them. You get the sense that it's not going to be easy, but what you just gave them, you gave it to the right people. Your people have probably been long extinct. Your purpose here has finally come to an end, and serendipity is what brought it to you. Only took 3 million years. And that gentle smile is what you see as this hardened casing of like ancient wood begins to grow up over their face, but it preserves the detail. So even though it's being claimed by the jungle, she just watches all of you with this gentle smile. And as the petrification begins to complete itself and that crest on the top of her head begins to grow out into some branches and form into what looks like, if you didn't look close enough, you wouldn't know that that was actually a person at one point, until the only thing left that resembles is that small, gentle smile on the face, and the fact that it looks like a gnarled root is comfortably clutching a crystal shard that goes straight into the floor. And the bioluminescence outside and all of the computers, these living computers that have been operating, the bioluminescence doesn't go out, but scatters. You notice that instead of all moving towards the middle of the tree, it slows and then just scattering out throughout the planet. And Azari, as this event unfolds and everyone is quiet, you glance down at this data pad that's been handed to you. And apparently, it's a very smart data pad, because as conversation has been taking place, apparently this data pad has been processing the languages that it's hearing. And it's extrapolating all of the data that it's being connected to. And after a few moments, Azari, there are very few things in this universe that can cause you to lose your cool. But your jaw goes slack as you look down at this, because what begins to form in front of you is ancient star charts of the Shackleton Expanse. Not just star charts of the Shackleton Expanse dating from the past couple of million years, but migratory patterns of cosmic ecosystems, of creatures that live in deep space, that creatures like the crystalline entity that form and grow within the crusts of planets, or that are born in nebula or asteroids, things that Starfleet has been trying to monitor ever since the earlier days, the random connections that it's had to indicate that there is life out there, living in the void of space, like the creatures at Farpoint Station, or the strange creatures that have been feeding on a Galaxy-class's engine core, thinking that it was his mother. In the same instance, you see millions of years of collected data and species that Starfleet has never recorded before, and all these migratory patterns like these amber threads weaving in and out of all of these systems, and a few of them known. Data that is easily, from your reckoning, Azari, one of the most astonishing biological scientific finds that Starfleet has encountered in a century.
I kneel down and make a mark in the earth in front of the tree and say, may you receive value for all the value you have given. And I look over my shoulder to LAKAT. Chart this as the Radius system.
Bryn gives LAKAT a smile. And the last shot of this episode are the shadows of this away team moving away and leaving that symbol on the ground and this creature to her eternal, peaceful, and contented rest. And that brings us to the end of the episode, Food for the Gods.
I came up with a name.
Yay!
Oh.
Is it
What-
too late? Is it too late to name my crystal?
The
I
last
want-
thing we hear is y'all step on board the runabout.
No, as we fly away, I want to look out the window and go, "Goodbye, my little Lucy. They have kaleidoscope eyes."
I'm telling you, Sharpie. Sharpie's the way
Okay, Lucy Sharpie Mackerel.
That's going to be the end of this episode. You guys, well done. And Eliza, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
for coming
We
back.
miss you, Elisa.
Oh, thank you so much. It felt so amazing to play with you all again.
What a delightful, wonderful character you gave us.
Yes.
I
oh my
believe
gosh.
Eliza should always play supernal beings. That is to say, just continue playing yourself. We love it.
Look,
Aw.
calm down, Grandmother Willow. We love you so much.
Oh, I love you guys too. Thank you for having me play with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you guys for tuning in for this episode of Clear Skies. We will be back next week, as always, for a new episode starting next Monday. And that'll do it for us tonight. Thank you again. We went a little bit late, so everyone gets some good rest, and we'll see you next time. Until then, hailing frequencies are closed.